African ancestors who began the march of humankind in the womb of Mother Africa, we ask these ancestors to be with us, to strengthen us, and give us a vision for the future. In the name of the African ancestors who began the march of humankind in the womb of Mother Africa and marched down the Nile, laying the foundations for human civilization and culture, we ask these Africans to be with us, to strengthen us, and give us a vision for the future. In the name of these African ancestors who built their pyramids and their temples to their God concepts, to their principles, and to their moral values, who left us a legacy of architecture and monumental building unparalleled in the history of the world, we ask these ancestors who built the pyramids, who built the temples, to be with us, to strengthen us, and give us a vision for the future. We ask these African ancestors who took this African culture and extended it throughout Africa, building the stone cities of Zimbabwe, building the empires of the Sudan, Ghana, Mali, and Songhai, building the Swahili city-states along the east coast of Africa, and in Christian Africa asking King Lalibela and giving him the courage to build the 12 churches of Lalibela from the ground down, monuments to the world. We ask these Africans who spread this culture to the Dogo and to the Akan and to the Yoruba and to the Bantongo and to the Zulu. We ask these Africans to be with us, to strengthen us, and give us a vision for the future. In the name of the Africans who opened up Africa, opened up the Nile Valley to other cultures and other peoples, and they came in and nurtured themselves on the African greatness. First coming in early were the ancient Hebrews, and they synthesized this culture and produced Judaism. Later coming in were the Christians, and they synthesized this culture and produced Christianity. Coming in were also the Greeks, who took the African culture, synthesized it, and produced Greek civilization. And then later, the Prophet Muhammad, and with the Arabs coming into the Nile Valley, they synthesized the culture and produced Islam. We ask these African ancestors, who as part of their legacy laid the foundations for Judaism, Christianity, Islam, and Greek civilization, to be with us, to strengthen us, and give us a vision for the future. We ask those African ancestors pulled out of Africa, taken to the hells of North America, South America, the Caribbean, maintaining the spirit of African humanity in their hearts and in their minds, and who left us this enormous legacy of struggle. We ask those Africans who resisted enslavement in the villages of Africa, who resisted enslavement in the shores of Africa, who resisted enslavement in those forts and dungeons, who resisted enslavement in the holds of those ships, who resisted enslavement when they arrived on these shores in the New World. We ask these Africans who ran into the highlands of northeast Brazil and established for 100 years the first free republic in the Americas, the Republic of Palmares, and their last great leader, Zumbi, who speared and sacrificed. We ask these Africans who replicated the Brazilian experience and went into the highlands of Jamaica and became the maroon-free communities. We ask these Africans who went into the backwoods of the Guyanas and Suriname and created free republic of the Suramaka and the Ajuka. We ask these Africans who went into the backwoods of Georgia and the swamps of Florida and moved with the Seminole Indians and resisted oppression. We ask these Africans who left us a legacy of struggle and resistance, the likes of which no one in the world has, to be with us, to strengthen us, and give us a vision for the future. We ask these Africans who created and laid for us a foundation of struggle and resistance that was passed on generation after generation, that was passed on to Harriet Tubman, who fought her way out of enslavement and became a symbol of freedom for all of us. Similarly, Frederick Douglass and hundreds of thousands of others fought their way out of enslavement. We ask those Africans who went with Boukman, Dessalines, to create the greatest revolutionary experience in the history of the world, the Haitian Revolution, leaving us a legacy, the likes of which no one else has had. We ask these Africans to be with us, to strengthen us, and give us a vision for the future.
Reuniting the African family for development.
very pleasant morning to you. Welcome once again. You're inside of the Africa Forum. It is Running African. My name is Kheru at Kheru. We go through until 10, but it's also a very, very special morning. Gonna be doing this two ways this morning. My brother and colleague Roger Haspel is in Kensington as we rememory and commemorate and observe and remember and recall the Emancipation Wars of 1831-32, led by Sam Sharp, called the Christmas Rebellion by some. We know that it was much more than that. And Roger is on location in Kensington. So we're going to be doing this by remote. And also, hey Roger, you're there. Great. Good morning.
I'm here.
Good morning.
Hey, I'm here. Good morning to you, Kheru. Good morning, everyone. Good morning to the Running African crew. And we are here in Welcome Hall, Kensington, the historical site of the great liberator, Sam Sharp.
Pretty early morning there, Roger. Pretty early morning, and I know that you're here in Kensington. What can you tell me about what's happening around you right now?
Well, what is happening right now is that a few people are gathering. Activities of course, today will be a church service, and we being here will help to promote the overall event. So persons are coming in, and as the morning progresses, we certainly have a bumper set of people around here. But I'm standing at the Kensington Historical Site, which was developed by the Tourism Product Development Company. And a nice little park right in the, just outside the square. They say the square is further around the road. So this is like around a half a mile or so from the square where we are. And all the activities today will be happening right here. And of course, it is around a half a mile from the original Tulla Castle, which that started the rebellion in 1832. So we're not very far from there.
All right, we expect that you're going to be with us for most, if not all, of the morning. I know that quite a few activities planned there this morning going into 11 a.m. when it will be time for the church service. That will be drumming and so on the ground there in Kensington. So hold there for me, Roger. We're going to be coming right back to you in a short while. We'll just get a few things out of the way, and then we're going to be rejoining Roger Haspel. Don't get away, Raj, hold on.
Not a problem, okay. Not a problem.
All right. As we welcome you on the internet at irefm.net. Welcome you wherever you are listening, on whatever continent you're listening, on the continent of Africa. Good morning to you. In Europe, good morning to you. Good morning on the 107s, 107.1 all the way to 107.9. Good morning to you if you're listening to us on your BlackBerry or your iPhone apps. Good morning. Welcome to the Africa Forum. It's Running African. This morning we are observing and commemorating and remembering the Emancipation Wars of 1831-32. Going to be telling you much more about Daddy Sam Sharp. Going to be telling you much more about the events that are lined up for the week. And of course, as I said before, Roger Haspel, and you just heard him, he's on location. He's there in Kensington, historic location in the Emancipation Wars. Going to be taking a quick break, and we're going to be doing it this way this morning, throwing it to Roger for most of the morning. Lots of activities taking place there in St. James. Quick break, and we'll be right back.
Running African, reuniting the African family for development.
All right, it is a special morning. It's a special morning in Jamaica. It's a special morning in Jamaica as we pause for a minute, or 4 hours at least this morning, to pay tribute to and to memory. As you heard Roger Haspel just said, the great liberator Sam Sharp, and those who fought and died and those who survived the 1831-32 Emancipation War. Roger Haspel is on location in Kensington. Roger, what is important about Kensington, and who do you have there with you at this time?
Well, at the moment, just to answer your last question, I have Mr. Sidney Bartley here. Of course, he is the Director General of the Ministry of Labour and the main coordinator of the Sam Sharp celebration. He's right. He's here with us at the moment.
Good morning, Mr. Sidney Bartley.
Yes, he's getting there.
Hello, Kheru. How are you?
We're doing pretty well. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing okay. I'm happy to hear you.
Yes.
I'm happy to hear you.
I know.
You know?
I know, and our listeners might just know also that I've been under the weather. Let me just say I've been under the weather. I'm still a little bit under the weather.
Exactly.
And that's why I'm not there with you this morning in flesh. But you know we're there in spirit, and we're there in terms of the airwaves.
And the spirit is strong, you know that?
Yes.
So how are you feeling now, though?
Well, I'm hanging in there, Sid. I was just saying to Roger, he's there in Kensington. What's the importance of that area in which you are right now?
It is the area where Sam Sharp, where the whole Christmas, whether we call it Christmas Rebellion, it has so many names. Sam Sharp Rebellion, Christmas Rebellion, Baptist War, Emancipation War. The Tunnel Castle is just down the road where the first flames started up in here, Yes. And I'm reading the Kensington Monument at the site, and there's a lovely thing that you would love, Andre. It's a cardboard that says the signal for the outbreak of the rebellion was the burning of the trash house on the adjoining Tunnel Castle estate, and the subsequent burning of the Kensington Great House. The fire was set by a female slave who, in full view of the military, cried, "I know I shall die for it, but my children shall be free."
I just got goose pimple just listening to that. Only a woman would talk like that. That's a woman thing.
I have no comment to it.
I know.
I think a certain woman will say, "Burn it down."
We the children shall be free. Yeah.
But she says, "I know I will die for it, but my children
shall be free." Can you imagine that?
I can imagine that, yeah.
Sid, what any information in regard to that lady in particular?
No, you as usual, our ancestors have become nameless. We have some names of the 500 odd people who actually were martyred in the whole
Yes, we have some names.
We have about 500 odd names based on history,
Yes.
And thanks to the work of Professor Vereen Shepherd, because
that's what I was about to say.
Yeah, she's done some real critical work in this area.
She's done some real work.
Yes.
And she has given us the names, and on Saturday night when we do the celebration of the anniversary of the rebellion, we'll be calling out all these names.
Yeah.
And we're going to call out all these. Kheru, it's a wonderful. I could see you down there, I could see you in 1832. I could see you. I think you'd have been that woman who liked the fire.
Sid, I was there. I was there. Right? I'm the daughter of earth and water. I'm the nursling of a sky. I pass through the pores of the oceans and the shores I change. But I cannot die.
That's amazing.
Roger, you hear that, no, Roger?
You're what?
Nice.
You're waxing, Kheru.
Right.
You're waxing.
Okay,
I tell you, up from the dust you rise.
Yes. Thank God for my unconquerable soul.
Oh, God, your indomitable spirit.
Oh, yes. Goodness.
Oh, goodness. When you come to places like this, man, all the elements just come in your being and you just feel re-energized and revitalized because, all right, yes, sir.
Mm-hmm. So we get the feeling then that this particular era was the era where Deacon Sharp was always up and about.
Yes.
Always meeting, and of course he was a deacon in church and so on. So it was all over the place.
All over the place. You can imagine going from estate to estate, having church, and then setting up and planning the rebellion.
Yes.
It was an amazing strategic planner.
Never to return after.
Oh, gosh. The first labor riot.
Yes. That was it. 27th of December, and of course that is next week.
Next week.
When we are having the main event.
Yeah, man.
Yes. Of course, there are 3 events, Cabo. They have the lecture that started, kicked off the celebrations. It was on the 11th at Sam Sharp Teachers College. Today we are having the broadcast here and the church service. And of course the main event would be December 27th. That's the day when the slaves decided that no more. That was it. When hell broke loose. Yes.
The enslaved Africans.
The enslaved Africans.
And critically, the single seminal event that decimated the slavery this side of the world. And shock of slavery.
Oh, yes.
The seminal event.
Every part of the British Empire, slavery went down.
Yes.
After Sam Sharp.
This was the event. And we are so glad to be a part of it. And we are here today. Of course, the dawn is breaking now down here, and from what we are seeing, Kheru is a lovely area. I mean, when I arrived last night, it was dark, but I realized it a lot of beauty as well. And as days breaking now, we are seeing the beauty and the landscapes and the hilly terrains going across, and it is like a sea, you know. So, and to think that on the 27th of December 1831.
Yes. All you'd have been looking at is fire.
Yes, the smoke. Because the smoke should have been the signal from one plantation to the next. So, I mean, it started on there at Tullow Castle, the trash house, with the lady. Would have loved to have gotten some more information about she, but she said she should have died for it. And then the smoke sent other signals, and then we start, I mean, we could say as far as Westmoreland here, Trelawney, St. Elizabeth, smoke all over the place.
All over. Hanover,
60,000.
Everything burning.
60,000 slaves. So I said, this is it. And here we are today, celebrating. And as we speak, we see more people coming in. We've seen a banner coming in here with Flames of Freedom, Tullow Castle, Kensington. And, of course, that event will be held on the 27th. And we're seeing here Fab 5 and a host of other artists will be a part of it. And, of course, it's under the patronage of the Member of Parliament, Honorable Derek Kelly. And so that's a big event next week. And probably we'll be here as well. You know, because again,
probably.
Probably. You know. I mean, I'm not talking about probably not.
Well, you'll be here. You'll be here.
Yeah. Me first,
and Kheru will be here.
Yes.
She will get up off her sick bed and she will rise.
Yes. So throughout the course of the morning, we'll be having persons coming along, sharing their words with us. I mean, what they know about Sam Sharp, and of course the activities that they'll be planning and so on. We also have here this morning Landell Clayton. He's the president of the Welcome Hall Citizens Association. He's our host this morning, and of course other persons will be coming throughout the course of the morning. So lovely morning. I mean, cool, nice. We see a flame burning. Is that a symbolic flame burning right now? That was a torch that the lady threw into the trash out. Yes.
So you look at a bamboo.
Yes. Bamboo. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, man. So that is the symbolic. So things shaping up nicely, Kheru, and boy, trust me, it's going to be a wonderful day. The church service will happening. One of the churches that he had his sermons and so on.
Yes.
And that church is Saltazil. But his church was...
Saltazil was one of the churches that he used to go to and preach regularly. He also went to Burchell, in Montego Bay. You know, William Nib was around in them days.
Yes.
But this is a church also that was founded by Moses Baker and Lyle, right? Those black Americans,
yes,
who came down, Baptists, yes, who came down and started the crusading here. Yes. That church was founded by Moses Baker and Josh Lyle.
What was the information regarding Mr. Tolo himself? Because he was a white man.
Yeah.
He won all of this area.
Yes, he won the estate.
One man whole. As far as I can see.
They don't know. And the estate was a big thing. And the estate was almost a community.
Yes.
Because it contained enslaved Africans.
Yes.
And miles and miles of sugar cane plantation.
And Mr. Tolo is buried here.
Yeah, Mr. Tolo just up the road. I went by part of the ruins of the Tolo Castle.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
John Tolo.
Mr. Tolo, man.
Yeah, man. Yes. He had to go down, you know.
Yeah. So he was among the 14 who died. 14 white.
Yeah.
White.
Yeah.
Because there's 14 white people dead during that rebellion. 39 plantations were burnt. 14 whites died, and approximately 500 slaves were summarily killed in retribution.
Right.
What a wicked retribution.
No, man, I tell you. He's to know.
That governor, what's his name? Mr. Cotton.
Oh.
What's information regarding him? Was he from England?
All of them were he was the person who was in command of the British military force here in Jamaica.
Oh, yeah.
He was commander-in-chief of the army. And he decided he was going to round up all Africans and destroy them.
And of course, he would have gathered other Africans and militias.
Yes.
To do them thing.
Yeah. But in that particular instance, the Africans were all fighting again.
Yeah, Africans. So they have to have their...
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
But I can't, but those times, they would also have their militias as well. That's brown people and they, you know, some other...
Because that's how they do it.
Yes.
You know, that's how they do it.
Yes.
That's how they do it. They control, so they do what they want to do.
Yes. Yes, and then after that, then they had the retribution in Sam Sharp Square. It is now known as Sam Sharp Square, but he and the others were hanged because of those actions.
Yes. And it's important for people to know that Sam Sharp gave up himself. Yes. He was not caught.
Yes.
He was out. They were searching for him. They couldn't find him. And in April, after he realized that so many people, April 1832, after he realized that so many people were being killed, he just gave up himself, and then he was executed on the 23rd of May, 1832.
And his famous last words were...
So when he said, I'd rather die on yon gallows than live another day of slavery.
Yes.
Yeah, man.
Same so.
Yeah, man.
And that's a quotation that I know from my idea, and it's a quotation that continues to reverberate throughout the course of history, through time.
That's a quotation that everybody knows about Sam Sharp.
Yes. Yes.
I would rather die on yon gallows than live another day of slavery.
And that was it.
And that was it.
And of course, he was subsequently named National Hero. And here we are celebrating the work that he did, along with others, because there would have been, as I said, there are a number of names that will be read out again, and so on, who subsequently died because of those actions. But nonetheless, because of those actions, we are here celebrating his life as a national hero, and we are here celebrating our freedom.
I was about to say that. Because of his actions, we are free.
Yes.
To own radio station, to own our own university, to do it.
Yes, and boy, it took time, but
to transplant the culture of Africa and the civilization of Africa to the Caribbean.
Yes.
In Jamaica, land we love. Same, sir.
Yes. So this site in particular, though, the Kensington Historical Site,
You know, when you want to get to them things, the man here,
Mr. Chong. Mr. Noel Chong.
Roger, just before you go just before you go to Mr. Chong, let me sorry, take a quick break and come right back to you, all right?
Straight to you,
okay, Cabo. Right back to you. Now 6:38.
Running African, reuniting the African family for development.
All right, we're going back to Kensington, where Roger Haspel is standing by as we recollect and recall to mind the Emancipation Wars, celebrating Sam Sharp and those who fought and died and survived the Emancipation Wars of 1831-32. Flames of Freedom. Roger, it's back to you.
Thank you very much, Kabu. Good morning again, everyone. We are here at the Kensington Historical Site here in the area is Kensington, and then of course we have Welcome Hall. This particular zone is Welcome Hall, as we are joined now by Noel Chong, a member of the Welcome Hall Citizens Association. I'm feeling welcome. No doubt the name Welcome Hall also coincides with that. But good morning to you, sir. Good morning. And you are the person, I gather, can give us some information regarding this particular site right here where we are. Based on what I'm seeing, apparently this could have been also one of those gathering areas of Mr. Shah. But this historical, give us a synopsis about how this historical site came into being.
Well, the name Kensington means commanding view.
Commanding view.
Yes, and as you can see where we are, there's a lot of view.
Yes, definitely.
So on the top of the hill, where you see the phone transmitter, there's a cemetery in that. Yes, okay. There's a cemetery right there, and it have all the British settlers buried right there.
Oh, so the British settlers are just that's all around 2 stone throws away.
Yes.
Yes. Just on the hill up that side.
Yes.
Up the southern barrier.
Yes.
There's British settlers.
Yes.
Okay.
They have around 9 foundations of the building, the Great House, Kensington Great House, where they used to dwell. They also have a hole around 30 feet in diameter.
What?
A hole in the ground, around 30 feet in diameter.
Yes.
That's where they used to hold the slave. In the ground.
Like a dungeon, something similar to a dungeon.
Yes, so they can't escape from the hole.
Yes.
But they put stuff over here.
Yes.
So to keep them in the ground. But where Tullow Castle is a settlement.
And it's not far from here, Tullow Castle.
No.
And I gather there are still some ruins there.
They are big stone wall buildings.
Yes.
Foundation, part of it left. So, and it was a settlement also.
Yes.
Because they look straight in Montego Bay from the end.
You can see.
Yes, you can see what the interior center. So you can see what Chilani. And that side you can see up in St. Elizabeth.
Because, driving from coming in, I gather it's 11 miles from Montego Bay where we are, and it was quite a long drive for me because we're driving especially slow. But you say you can see the city of Montego Bay from there?
Yes.
Wow. Yes. So, this site now, tell us about it.
This site here is where, up at the part of Greenwich Hill, they used to have a little building where Sam Sharp, a meeting place.
So the whole area is at the site?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
And he planned the rebellion.
Yes.
The lady who
in this zone. Okay. Yes.
So plan B was to get William Nib for them to see they get negotiate there.
That's what the Baptist minister did.
No. Yes. William Nib, I think he was a lawyer.
Okay.
Yes.
You're a minister from England.
Yes. He tried to get the freedom for the slave.
Yes.
And they have an inauguration ceremony at Sartersville Baptist Church.
Yes. That's down the road.
Yes. But he never win because the plantation owners they cut a network of road in the highland.
Yes.
Set up a farm and put the slaves so they don't work back their money at the place. So they can't make them go free.
Yes.
So they have to work. So they accuse William Nib of sell out.
Yes, that's the plantation owner.
Yes, and the
settlers.
Yes, settlers. So all the plantation owner from Trelawney, Westmoreland, Hanover, in St. James. All of them get at Chartersville Baptist Church to hear the outcome of what take place in England.
Yes.
So through that take place now, and if they never get their freedom, they go to Plan B to light the Kensington Great House, the Trash House,
yes,
and the Great House, and they send the signal to Palmyra, where they continue the rebellion.
And Palmyra is a couple miles from.
Yes, like to.
Oh, it's Rosas. Rosas side.
Yes, because you can see over there.
You can see Rosas on that side.
Yes,
okay.
easily.
Yes.
So they continue it. So Tolocastle run and barely escape on top of Chartersville and said he barely survived along with his wife
and family. Yes.
Bruised and battered. So when they spread the news in the aggregation, in the sermon, everybody, that didn't expand as them. Everybody run in different directions.
Yes.
And they carry the news and everything continues same way. It's spreading until the 1830s, everyone. Yes.
Yeah. So that gathering up at the church where everybody meets, that was the first meeting where they were hoping to hear some good news.
Yes.
Out of England.
Yes.
But it never worked at the time.
It was the good news for the planters.
It was good news for the planters. They love that.
Yes, that's why,
because they want to squeeze out everything out of the poor little African them around here. So, good news to them, but bad news to we.
Yes, it's late.
And we went to Plan B.
Yes.
Which was the plan. Yes. Our way to freedom.
Yes.
And here we are today. So, right here now, this thing, why you can't tell me about it?
It's like this thing.
Yeah, man, this historical, this information right here, the whole site itself right here. Yeah. I mean, it was funded by the tourism product development.
Yeah.
Yes. Mr. Bartley probably was.
Yeah, man, it was go on.
It's Mr. Kelly initiative. Our historian, teacher Dan Carter Henry.
Historian.
Yes, Dan Carter Henry, the uncle of PJ Patterson.
Yes.
Yes, they come with the history along with the association and things, and they make the history more plain and known to the public here.
Yes.
And put up the notice board and things. So because even citizens in this era who migrated or leave, or older one, don't know the history.
Yeah, I can just imagine a lot of people who from this never know nothing.
Yeah, they don't know say some cut-stone building, and they know some of them know the building, but they didn't know the history.
Yes.
But thanks to Mr. Kelly and our historian, they brought it to life and put up the Tolocastle where we have the annual festival 2 times a year. The Emancipation Village.
Yes.
They build that thing along with the Citizens Association.
Yes.
Mr. Bartley, fantastic thing that Mr. Kelly has done down here.
Yes, I can see it. I can see it. You know, I think it's credit.
Right, and it's a dream. You know, it's something that has great potential.
Yes,
because in terms of heritage celebration and heritage tourism, which was why the GPD would have supported this and funded this monument in this position, so that everybody who's passing through. All right, I mean, if you was down Tolocastle, you wouldn't see it.
Yes.
But as you pass through, you see this monument, and it reminds you about that Kensington was where it all began. And it's a very important location. So brethren, you're upon holy ground right now.
Yeah, definitely. The portrait of Mr. Sharp, how accurate? How accurate would you say?
Oh, I know where you're going with that.
I don't know.
Where you're going with that.
I don't know if there were quotes.
No. I don't know.
You don't know.
Campo, you know? One thing is interesting about that portrait.
Yes.
As a child growing up, I hear about Sam Sharp.
Yeah, Daddy Sharp.
Daddy Sharp. And even calling him Daddy Sharp.
Yes.
What does that do when you call him Daddy Sharp?
It signifies something.
Yeah, but it also makes you think him as somebody old, don't you?
Yeah, and
because we call Daddy Elder.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
So that there is an impression of Sam Sharp as an older person.
Yes.
But do you realize that Sam Sharp was about 31 years old when he died?
Very young. Very young.
I mean, 31.
Yes, it's true. When you say Daddy Sharp, you think it's a old.
A lot of Jamaicans think about Sam Sharp as an old man.
Yes.
And we say Daddy Sharp.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
But he was born out somewhere around 1800, 1801.
Yes.
And he died in 1832. So the man was like 31, 32 years old.
Yes. And in terms of Sam Sharp, you would have said that he was one of those who had a little more privilege.
Yes, because, he had
Still a slave, but
he had a little more privilege because he had the name of the name of his master.
Yes,
which was interesting.
Well, all we have a name of him.
No, we have the surname. Yeah, he have the full name.
The full name.
I want I want to butt in on how we call ourselves, because still I would say still enslaved, you know. And carrying
we should keep that.
Yes, man, I'm carrying the name of the enslaver.
Yes, and carrying the name of the enslaver. But Kabu, I think it may have been the only city. All of us got the surname of the planter of the plantation, but I can't think of any other situation where one enslaved African got the full name of the enslaver.
Well, but I'm sure that must be replete in history, and I don't know, but I'm sure that is all over.
You mean the full name somewhere?
No, I'm just saying. I mean, the enslaver was that vicious to take your name totally and just give you one name. You know, whether it's his or anybody else's in his family.
Yeah, I
am thinking. You know, but I understand the point that you're making, Sid, that, you know, Sam Sharp's name was stolen from him, and that he was given, you know, the full name of a vicious enslaver. So I hear you pointing out the grave sites and the cemetery and so on, and I'm biting my tongue.
I know.
I'm biting, so I'm not saying anything much. I'm biting my tongue, Roger.
Yes, I can just imagine.
Yes. You do silent.
No, you have something to say now. No, yeah.
Sam Sharp, he had a special privilege, but he was a special person.
Yes, we'll get into that. Yes. Special person, but he also had a privilege.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. He also was privileged.
Yes, because when the slave was not governable, he was the first one to come speak to them, get them to do Christianity, and get them to obey that they don't run after the plantation.
And learn verses and learn to read
So Sam Sharp now, he was a preacher. He do psychology.
Yeah.
He have language skill. African come with enough diverse languages, and he was able to communicate with them.
Yes, a multiplicity of dialects and so on.
He was a special human being, and talented.
Yes.
And he, as you said, he was a privileged African in that he was not given the full enslavement of others.
Yes.
He was in a great house with his master, with his enslaver.
Yes.
Working there.
But Sydney, is there any privilege in being enslaved?
No.
Different degrees. There are different degrees.
There are different degrees of enslavement.
Yes.
So let us say he had less vicious situations.
Yes.
To say he had privilege.
But he also felt the pain at the same time.
Yeah.
And
but he felt the pain of his,
Yes.
And he felt always that regardless of what situation he was in, he was always conscious that he was not free.
And
that he should not be owned by anyone.
Yes.
He was always conscious of that. And that could never leave his psyche, no matter what he did.
Hence the special person he was.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely. Right, Kabu?
Yeah, I am thinking myself that, you know, even when we talk about Christianity and all of that, and talk about the role that Sam Sharp played in the Emancipation Wars, and the fact that he was a deacon, I think that we ourselves have to understand this as, you know, coming from the mind of a liberator, using the very same tool of enslavement to liberate.
Yes.
You know, in other words, what do you have in your hand? You know, what do you have in your hand? Use it. And so if it's a Bible that he had in his hand, then the Bible speaks of freedom. The Bible speaks of liberation.
The Bible speaks of liberation. That element, when his Christian calling led him into looking at the cry for setting the captives free. What is called liberation theology. The whole use of the principles of Christianity, the principles of the Bible, as a part of the liberation of the human being. Mm-hmm. And some of us speak of it in spiritual terms only. Yeah. Some of us speak of it only in terms of we are free to worship. Yeah. But we don't realize that it is a total freedom.
Yes.
It's what Garvey spoke of when he spoke of the masters of our own destiny.
Straight.
The right to choose, the right to be. And Sam Sharp was about that.
Yes.
And can you imagine, Sydney, at this time, I mean, now we're talking about the 21st of December and things coming to a head on December 27. Can you imagine that how the heights of a strategizing that would have happened up to this point, and how the plans that would have been laid by now, by today?
That's amazing. When you think there were no cell phones, there was no phone. All we had was the indomitable drum was our communication tool. And when you think of the large expanse, as we look around, as Roger says, and seeing the hills all over the place, and then when you realize that Sam Sharp and all the others had to be moving through these hills in the middle of the night, free electricity, all of that, before computer, all of that, and strategizing, getting Africans as far as Hanover and other places. Westmoreland. No, coordinating. No, it's an amazing concept to even think about.
And that shows you also how the seriousness at which they took it, because here they know that a lot of things at stake here. I mean, the life at stake, everything at stake, and they just determined that, look here, this generation right here in Jamaica, we are going to stop slavery.
It has to go.
And they paid for it, and we celebrate their lives now because of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so right here at the historical site here in Kensington, we are standing behind the symbolic flame, which is burning. Will it be burning throughout the course of the
Yes.
Yeah. And this is something similar to what the lady threw into the trash house.
Right.
And when it's a trash house, what would have been a trash house?
A trash house is a house where they store the cane trash.
Yes.
They use it for fuel to boil the sugar.
Oh, so everything from that cane plant did something.
Yeah.
So they keep it in a dry place.
So is that what what they call ethanol and all this?
No, we call it that.
Yeah. So that is the original ethanol. So the trash house was the ethanol house. Wow. Interesting. And so she decided that was it. We have burned that with 10-minute signal. So interesting. And so she decided that was it. We have burned that with 10-minute signal. So you're saying now, there's where they store for the fuel. Explain the other things where that plant could have, what it did.
They boil the sugar. So they will have different type of cane, but they have a mill. They're around 30 feet or so in diameter. The area of space, the lever, where they put the stone and make it round, and they put around 4 feet by 4 feet in the middle. They have a little cane mill. Yeah. So they have the horse or the mule going around in that circle to crush the cane and squeeze out the juice.
Okay.
They go now a big pot, they call it a copper pot. Yes. So near beside that. So you have you see the terrain of the place. So they don't have one big mill. They have a lot of them all over on different plantations.
Yes. Speaking with Noel Chung, a member of the Welcome Hall Citizens Association, and we have Mr. Sidney Bartley, the coordinator of the whole Sam Sharp celebrations. 3 events. Tell us about the first one that took place at
Sam Sharp. Oh, that was marvelous. It's a Sam Sharp lecture.
Yes.
We decided that it was important to start a Sam Sharp lecture series, so that on this occasion, the Sam Sharp Teachers College has been involved.
Yes.
One of the things that coming out of the vision of Mr. Kelly, one of the things that we're doing is ensuring that we bring all the elements of Sam Sharp together.
Yes.
So Sam Sharp Teachers College is very involved.
Yes.
They'll be at the service today as well.
Yes.
So that lecture went on. Dr. Simon Clark
yes.
Was the lecturer. He did a good job. Students came from Malden, just up the road here, Springfield, Anchovy, Cambridge. A lot of students came, and it was a student.
Yes.
For secondary students and college students.
Yes.
And so that was started this year with Simon Clark. It was very well. Dr. Simon Clark is one among the best. And he spoke about the various elements of Sam Sharp's life and related to the kind of life that students were now having. So it was very relevant to them.
Yeah, so he brought that realness back to this generation about what Sam Sharp was all about.
Yes, because ignorance is a problem. Lack of knowledge is a real issue.
Yeah, because you'll also have some people who, even from all these zone, who might have bad things to say about Mr. Sam Sharp. So,
people don't know.
Yeah.
You don't know. You see, and that kills us all the time.
Yes.
The people die because of lack of knowledge. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So we've got to fuel knowledge. So the concept of that lecture was to do that.
Mm-hmm.
All right? And so that happened.
Yes.
And it was very good. Sam Sharp Teachers College hosted it.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks to the principal, Dr. Pinnock, and the staff like Miss Graham.
Yes.
And
this year basically it is the first of an expanded Sam Sharp celebration.
Okay, because this celebration has been going on for years.
Yes.
Through Mr. Kelly and the Welcome All Citizens Association. Mm-hmm. They have been carrying it on for years. When you talk to the president, he can tell you some of the things that has been happening. Mm-hmm. But what we're trying to do is to take it to another level so that it can become the vision of Minister Kelly is that it could become a major heritage tourism attraction, and that the community can gain income from projects like these.
Heritage cultural tourism.
So Irie has to be in on it. Let me talk it loud forever and forever to ensure that all the people, so that later on people come from Africa, from US, all about at this time of year to welcome all to see what is about Sam Sharp.
Well, you have our word. Irie is the people station.
Irie is the station.
One is for the people. We are here for the people.
I know.
Yes, Mr. Chuck. I want you to know that all the freedom war took place in South St. James. Maroon Town is like 4 miles. You can see those mountains right up there.
Oh, that's
Maroon Town.
Yes. Up there.
Okay. That's where the Maroon Rebellion took place. The Ojo and Nani and okay, yes. 17. So after this district here, that will be we end up into
Maroon Town.
Yeah. Blackstaff. That's an interesting name. Blackstaff. You want to highlight us about that?
I'm going to have to take a break. Roger.
Not a problem. Not a problem. Straight to you.
Break, and we'll be right back with Roger Hasfall and the team there in Kensington, St. James. Today is the 21st of December. You know, it marks a year exactly, 1 year exactly, since the passing of Richard Hart. And let's stop to acknowledge that for a minute, because a lot of what we know about Sam Sharp, about the Emancipation Wars, research done by Richard Hart himself. So it's a year exactly today that Richard Hart passed, 21st of December. It's 2014. He passed last year. All right, we're going to take a quick break, come back, and rejoin Roger Hasfall in Kensington. Now, a minute after 7 o'clock. Lots happening this morning in Jamaica. February 1831, the enslavers, the colonizers, the enslavers approved legislation to reduce the number of free days following Christmas from 3 to 2. And according to the work of Richard Hart, many enslaved Africans were able to read English, and news of anti-slavery campaign in Britain resulted in an atmosphere of expectancy. Many believing the king had made them free or was planning to do so. And as Hart points out, this belief was particularly strong among enslaved Africans who were members of Baptist churches in western parishes. On June 3, 1831, a proclamation in the name of King William IV was issued, refuting such claims. It was not widely publicized in Jamaica till December 22, 1831. The plan for a rebellion to commence after Christmas 1831 was conceived and organized by Samuel Sharp, 31 years old, enslaved African on Croydon Estate in St. James. And you've heard and you've been hearing all morning that Sam Sharp was a Baptist lay preacher referred to as a daddy or as a ruler at a meeting, and that's a title for the churches, out of a church, it's daddy or ruler. Now at a meeting at Retrieve Estate in St. James, Sam Sharp had all present bound themselves by oath not to work after Christmas as slaves, but to assert their claim to freedom and to be faithful to each other. After Christmas, bound yourselves by oath not to work as enslaved Africans, but as free men, understanding yourself as free men and women. The strike was the most important organizational factor in Sam Sharp's revolutionary plan. On Thursday, December 27, 1831, the last night of a 3-day Christmas festival, a few hours before the scheduled strike, fire at Kensington. And this, of course, being the signal 16 other estates followed, talking about flames of freedom, fire at Kensington. And this is where Roger Hasfall is, at Kensington, on December 21. As we rejoin him, we're hearing the singing in the background. Roger, you can tell us what's happening there?
Yes, they're drumming up a little chant here by the rivers of Babylon, and it's going well, headed by Chief Choir Leader, Mr. Bartley, and of course we are joined now by other members of the community coming in, more and more coming in. They have just put up the banner regarding the celebrations that is to come on December 27, what you spoke about. Still have here Mr. Noel Chong, a member of the Citizens Association, and we were speaking about Flagstaff. That's a name that struck a bell, because it has some significance to do with the British settlers and the enslavers. And Noel Chong, you want to tell us about that?
Yes, actually there's a phone transmitter.
Yes.
There's a cemetery near beside it.
Yes.
Where they buried the British settlers. The soldiers died in the Maroon War.
Yes, the British soldiers died. Yes.
So the Maroon War took place there. And the Sam Sharp Rebellion started here. Down there. For the whole country.
Yes. So Flagstaff took the name out of the British.
No, the British, it was the Maroon Town. But after the war, the British, they make a barrack, they make something up there, and they have a hospital for the British settlers, soldiers. They stay there while they move the Maroon from there to Akanko.
Yes.
So they stay there, a fort, they build a fort there.
And the fort, okay, the fort over there.
At Flagstaff.
Yes.
So they put the big guns on the hilltop and things. And nothing.
You're talking about the cannon and so on.
Yes.
So they have
gun hill and things where they put them.
And that's around a mile from here, so?
So that's around 5 miles.
Oh, further up. Okay. We have other people standing by to speak with us. We also have Osborne Johnson. He's the former president of the Welcome Hall Association, a man who can provide us with a lot more information regarding Mr. Samuel Sharp and the role he played in liberating us. That we could be here this morning through the airwaves of IRA FM, celebrating the life of this great Jamaican, a man who gave his life for the freedom of millions of people. And Osborne Johnson, the former president, is with us. Good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, sir.
And how long were you president?
Just for 2 years.
Just for 2 years.
As president, yes.
So
you with the movement from its exit.
Yes. So, December 25th.
Yes.
Incidentally, that would have been after Christmas and Boxing, because Boxing Day would have been celebrated at that time. So the slaves were to come back, because normally that's when the plantocracy would have given them some time off, right?
Yeah, but the important thing about that part is that, as we all know, Christmas and Boxing Day gets its name from the day that you open up your gifts and so on that day, the slave master would be secret within their own domain.
Yes.
And so the slaves would have like a day off on that day.
Yes.
So the day after that, they still wouldn't be out there on the field just as yet. So that's why they organized that day for the whole
rebellion. No, hold on, let's take a pin. Boxing Day was the day that they organized. That's what you're saying?
No. What I'm saying, the day after Boxing Day.
The day, that would have been the 27th.
After Tuesday.
Okay. Because they should have returned back to the respective.
They wouldn't say after, because on Boxing Day is the day that the masters would have their day.
Yes.
And so instead of coming out on the next day, it would be a little lapse.
Okay.
So they are used to that type of situation. So that's why that day was planned.
Yeah. So they were expecting them to come out on the 28th then?
Yes. Twice. No, they know that unlike on the 28th, it would be full resumption of work.
Yes. So the 28th. Yeah. So the rebellion started on the 27th.
That's right. They do that.
Okay. So everything just mashed up from there today.
Yes.
Because they were looking for them, everybody to come back on the 28th.
Yes.
Full resumption.
Yes.
But that never happened.
It's because, as you all know, his work, he was preparing from quite some time ago.
Yes.
But the thing,
up and down all over the year, the hills and terrains of this one.
Yes.
So, in terms of that now, so how long was the rebellion?
It was about, what was it? I think some parts I used to say it was 2 days, some say it was 3 days. But as we all know it works, in those days, the slaves couldn't write anything for themselves.
Right.
So what we have to go by is what the slave master writes.
Okay.
And what they...
But what about oral tradition that travels the truth as well? In terms of oral history, but we the people.
We still have to imagine and know what happened.
Yes.
Because if we look at the important part of the history, is that in those days, everybody was owned.
Yes.
And can you imagine, just like a pasture house?
Yeah, man. Property.
Yes. The owned.
Yeah.
And
me and you are property.
Yes. And then we realize that when a man has his property at home, his pasture, he let go the cow.
Yes.
But in those days, the slaves was chained. They weren't let go.
So the cow never changed, the goat never changed, but the man changed. Yes.
So as a result of that,
chattel slavery. Yes.
And Sam Sharp was the man with the little freedom, because his father was one of the slave masters. And his mother was a slave, so he grew up and he see everything. Into the side of the slave and into the side of the
slave. So Sam Sharp himself then would have been, in those days, did I call him mulatto? No? His father was white? No, that's what I'm trying to get from you now.
History says that his father was one of the slave masters, and that's why he had the opportunity to work within the house, because his mother was working in the house also. His mother.
He have a white father and still pull down. Eh? I don't know. I mean, I'm just asking because Mr. Barton look as if he has a total another interpretation.
Yes.
So apparently then there could be some different interpretations as to who Sam father is.
Different interpretation, because all we have to go by is what was in the archives, and that was what was written by the slave master, and not by the slaves.
Yeah.
But we have to realize what it is like to be in slavery.
Yes.
Looking at those people, chain on your foot, and you only do what you are told.
Yes.
And those people are not likely to come and write things as it is. But if you notice, most of the Sam Sharp history was not recorded, you know.
Definitely.
Not recorded. These things get left out because the things that happen, the masters are not proud of it, you know. They don't want...
But they should be ashamed.
They are more than ashamed.
They should be ashamed.
And that's why a lot of the history is left out. All that we have is what is written in the archives, and that is not, that don't tell well for the people, the slaves, the descendants of Sam Sharp.
Yes.
We have no real good reason to understand what is there.
I'm speaking here with Mr. Osborne Johnson, the former president of the Welcome Hall Citizens Association. We still have Noel Chung with us. Noel has something for us in regard of an oral history through poetry. And he can enlighten us where that is concerned, tell us a little history through poem about back in the day.
Africa was a free land where our foreparents used to work and play on. But some of the black man was corrupted by the white merchants. So they catch them brother and sisters and sell them as slaves. Yes, they were slaves, but now we are free. No more slavery. They run them down, then catch them and then lock them up. The Kerman tea from Ghana, the Mendigos from Senegal, a whole lot of them from Africa. They face a lot of hardship coming across the Atlantic. A lot of them perish on the slave ship. They reach Jamaica them, line them up, and shine them up. Ready to sell them and distribute them. Then say the one with the broken him a B class. The one with the cut with him a B class. The one will look smooth and spotless. Then if you step cross, him a A class. 40% of the British economy was built by slavery. In 1838, slavery was abolished. The white man gets repatriation fee. But until today, the black man only get apology. The black man only get apology.
Yes, that's so right. Mr. Johnson, so you're 2 years now. I mean, tell us about that period in which you played your role.
The 2 years that you are talking about is just as president of the Citizen Association. What happened, I play my part in the development of the Sam Sharp site. That was over some, 10, 12 years ago.
Where's that?
Down there. Down at the
Front of Castle.
Yes. So I think that is what you really want to hear about.
Yes, I'll get in there, but I want you to tell me about that. Because, I mean, you went there, you did some work. So there have been some rehabilitation in terms of some stuff down there. You want to tell me about that?
In the beginning,
yes,
there was just bush and just a little remains of the stones that were there left.
Yes.
But over many years, from the time of the burning of the trash house,
yes,
that place was never... It was there, but no one really realized the exact spot on which it exists.
Yes.
And so we had a vice president in the name of Don Carter Henry, who was an historian. And he went through the archives and find the exact spot. And so then we went down there and clean up the land, remove all the bushes and so, and be able to identify the exact spot where the trash house was.
Okay.
And the estate. And there was where the development of the site really begins.
But tell me more about what is there now. No, at present, it is an ongoing project working on. Yes. At present, we have the bathroom, finished. The bathroom, the completion and changing room. You have the seating area, that finished a long time, and the stage area, they got a concrete. Seating, so you have parking lot, they have the water coming in, and they have the part where they sell, and where people gather up for the function annually. And it is situated on land donated by Dr. Agri Iron to the Citizen Association. The land belongs to Dr. Agri Iron. Oh? Yeah? Yes, they will property. Okay. See, what happened? Yes. In those days, when they sell out the land, a lot of the new land owners don't even realize what is it they have. Yeah, I can just imagine, because I mean, not such a historical side that does that. It's like you have gold, I don't even know. Simple as that, because he rent out the place, not on all his parents, they rent out the place and have people planting things and it's doing farming and it, even without realizing what it was. And it was a church in those days, Baptist church, who organized to remove the stones that were there and helped to build the Springfield Baptist Church. Yes. Here we are in Kensington, St. James. We are at the Kensington Historical Site. And of course, just within half mile or so, we have the Tulloch Castle, which was burned on December 27th. And here we are celebrating the work of those brave people who helped to liberate Jamaica.
And one of the things that seems to me, Roger, that we probably have to consider, even as we continue to celebrate Sam Sharp and remember the Emancipation Wars, to recall them, is actually to say also that we have to look at the names of some of these places, that still bear the names of the enslaver, and then where their graves are, that really and truly these graves are to be spat upon, not to be shown as part of any heritage of anything. It's like I can't envision the Jews. I can't envision the Jews, for example, immortalizing the graves of the Nazis. I don't see that happening. I think it's only in our history as black people that we have. If you go to Seville, we have a situation where the graves of the enslavers are in marble and so on, and the graves of those who are, fought for freedom and those who were enslaved, you can hardly identify. And also we retain the names. We retain the names of the enslavers. Roger, I'm going to need about 50 minutes from you, 50 minutes, as we go to the Sam Sharp lecture. The Sam Sharp lecture was carried in on November 5, 2006, and this was delivered by Arnold Bertram. So I want about 50 minutes from you, 50, close to an hour, before we rejoin you to actually carry the lecture. But I hear the singing in the background. You can tell me what's happening there?
Yes, right now more people are gathering, and of course they are having the chant. I mean, sometime immemorial with those chants. I mean, by the rivers of Babylon and Hamid Bedo and all those things. So it's a nice little gathering, and it's going all the time. Drums coming in, more people coming, more singing coming in, and it's really growing as we speak right now, right here at the historical site. Oh, that sounds really good, and we encourage persons to come in, to go to Kensington, be a part of what's happening there on the hills, in the hills of St. James. IRFM will be there until 10 o'clock. Roger will be there until 10 and probably beyond that. So be a part of that. Go out and be a part of that. We're going to take these Sam Sharp lectures. We remember and we call and remember Daddy Sam Sharp, and then we return to Kensington, where Roger Hasfall is standing by. Is that okay with you, Raj? Not a problem. I'm keenly listening to that lecture. All right. Thank you so much, my brother. Okay, Roger Hasfall on location in Kensington. Roger, give us a little bit of the music. Go closer to the music. We can get a little bit of the singing. A little bit of the singing there. You need to up your voice a little. And we have to have the already audience hearing this chant. And I want you to understand that this was started by the 3 women slaves after the end of the revolution. That's all they could do, was dancing and singing their chant all around. And so this is why the descendants of the Sam Sharp still have this tradition, even up to today. This is what it is all about. Yes, indeed. So I hope you hear it for a little while, Kabu.
Yes, I'm hearing it. I'm hearing it. All right, Songs of Liberation, Songs of Liberation down there in Kensington. And as a community gathers, we ask you to gather also. And we're going to go to a Sam Sharp lecture where we broadcast the Sam Sharp lecture, then we return to Kensington. So, Roger, we return to you in 50 minutes.
Come on, over to you.
All right, thank you so much. Roger Hasfall there in Kensington. Quick break, I'll be right back.
Running African, reuniting the African family for development.
All right, at this time of the year, as Pan-Africanists and Africans in Jamaica, we remember the Emancipation Wars, 1831-32, and Sam Sharp and those who fought and died with him in Jamaica. Many years ago, we, in part of our IRFM's In Search of series, part of our lecture included the Sam Sharp lecture when we went in search of Sam Sharp. That was in November 2006. The lecture at the time was delivered by Arnold Bertram. Going to be carrying a rebroadcast of that before we rejoin Roger Hasfall in Kensington.
Thank you very much. I would like to dedicate this lecture to Richard Hart for his pioneering scholarship on the contribution of African Jamaicans to their struggle for freedom and social justice. Richard Hart was among the first to see the organic link between the building of the national movement and a process of public education through which the Jamaican people could draw inspiration from their own history and their own heroes. His monumental labors in this field remain unparalleled. I would also like in this dedication to include my wife Claire, my children Gillian and Richard, and especially my two grandsons, Elijah, Asher, Bertram Levy, and Joshua Richard Joseph Bertram. I would specifically like to commend the Jamaica National Heritage Trust, and in particular its chairman, Professor Vereen Shepherd, for placing her scholarship at the service of the Jamaican people. The partnership forged with IRFM, and which has led to the In Search of series, represents a major landmark in our understanding of the historical process. The energy and commitment of the staff at IRI, led by Andrew Williams Green, has been extremely commendable. Now, Sam Sharp. Samuel Sharp, designated National Hero of Jamaica, first came to the attention of the colonial authorities in the year he was tried, convicted, and executed for organizing and leading the Emancipation Rebellion of 1831. This rebellion, which began on December 27th, involved close to 60,000 men and women, the majority enslaved, from 300 plantations, pens, rural settlements, and urban holdings. From its center in St. James, it spread first to Trelawney, Westmoreland, Hanover, Manchester, and St. Elizabeth. Its effects were felt in the two parishes at the eastern end of the island, St. Thomas and Portland. Despite all this, at the height of the rebellion, considerable ignorance prevailed among the authorities as to the identity of Sam Sharp. None of them knew him. Hence the imprecision in the proclamation by the governor, the Earl of Belmore, on the 3rd of January, 1832, which offered a reward for the apprehension. And here how Sam Sharp is described. One General Ruler Sam Sharp, or Tharp, alias Daddy Ruler Sharp, or Tharp, director of the whole rebellion, and styled also preacher to the rebels, belonging to Croydon Estate, St. James. To add to this confusion, the manuscript notes of Sam Sharp's trial, which took place on April 19th, refers to Samuel Sharp slave to Samuel Sharp, Esquire, of the parish of St. James. The Samuel Sharp, Esquire referred to was a lawyer who owned a small property called Cooper's Hill on the outskirts of Montego Bay, in the area where you now have the Cornwall Regional Hospital. Sam Sharp had become a trusted house slave. Consistent with the custom of the day, slaves took the name of their masters. To this day, historians contend as to whether or not the officials who prepared the reward notice and who themselves were most likely ignorant of the man they were describing confused Sam Sharp with John Sharp and Daddy Tharp, both local leaders in the rebellion who lived in Catadupa, a rural village adjoining Croydon Estate. The confusion which still prevails as to his identity, birth, and early years need not detain us, for we must not lose sight of the fact that slave did not leave written records for posterity. But for the rebellion, Sam Sharp, like so many other African Jamaicans of singular genius, would have lived and died as though they had not been. Yet, if we consider freedom to be the single most important asset in our struggle for nationhood, Sam Sharp can justly claim pride of place as the greatest Jamaican of all times. For he, more so than any other, is the symbol of our transformation from slavery and the architect of our liberation at a most critical point. As to his identity, I am of the view that the Sam Sharp described as a field slave at Croydon is the same Sam Sharp which reappears as a house slave in Cooper's Hill. Why do I say this? The detailed knowledge displayed by Sam Sharp of the interior of St. James in the organization and conduct of the rebellion, and his intimacy with the leaders, strengthens the official claim that he was born and spent his early years among the slaves on the properties in the hills of St. James that are in close proximity to Croydon. Just let us take a look and see some of these people who were leaders and where they were. There was Dove at Belvedere, Tharp, Hazellinth. There were Guthrie at Montpelier. There was Johnson at Retrieve. These are some of the leaders Sam Sharp recruited, and their conduct in the rebellion suggests these are people he would have known over a period of time. One fact, however, about which all are agreed is that Sam Sharp lived in Montego Bay for some time before the 1831 rebellion. Indeed, one of the rebel leaders, Robert Gardner, testified that the rebellion had been on their minds since 1824. This date is particularly significant for the fact that on the 28th of January that year, 14 slaves from the Unity Hall and Spring Garden estates in the parish of St. James were charged with planning to enter into a rebellious conspiracy for the purpose of obtaining by force and violence and by acts of resistance the freedom of themselves and other such slaves. Interestingly, one of those charged went by the name of Croydon. One is tempted to speculate, would this Croydon have anything at all to do with our national hero Sam Sharp? Given Sam Sharp's central role in the planning of the rebellion, it is entirely likely that he was already working at Cooper's Hill Estate in Montego Bay at this point, and would have been a member of the First Baptist Church for which Thomas Burchell had been minister since 1822. Sam Sharp also had other reasons for being in Montego Bay. He was married to a slave at Content, an estate located in the western end of Montego Bay, and from the records that are available, visited her often. His brother William, with whom he seemed to have had a close relationship, also lived in Montego Bay. What was Sam Sharp like? I've always looked at the artistic impressions that are available, and in particular the official one. They all tend to portray a balding man, fairly mature in age. The description given by the Methodist minister is not consistent with those artistic impressions. And I quote Henry Blebby's description. Blebby speaks of a young man of middle size. His fine sinewy frame was handsomely molded, and his skin as perfect a jet as can well be imagined. His forehead was high and broad, while his nose and lips exhibited the usual characteristics of the Negro race. He had teeth whose regularity and pearly whiteness a court beauty might have envied, and eyes whose brilliancy were almost dazzling. Blebby visited Sam Sharp often while he was in jail, and found him the most intelligent and remarkable slave he had ever met. According to Blebby, Sharp possessed intellectual and oratorical powers above the common order, and this was the secret of the extensive influence which he exercised. Reading Blebby's description of Sam Sharp brings to mind one of Sharp's contemporaries, Nat Turner, the slave from the state of Virginia in the United States of America, who was born the same year as Sam Sharp and led the rebellion to which his name has been appended 4 months before Sam Sharp's Emancipation rebellion in Jamaica. This is how they describe Turner. His moral facilities were very strong, and in general so marked were his early peculiarities that people said he had too much sense to be raised as a slave. He fasted, prayed, preached, read the Bible, and communicated his revelations to the awestruck slaves. Sam Sharp, what was the international environment in which he was born? What was the world like then? The record suggests Sam Sharp was born in the year 1800 into a world in which slave labor had been the dominant feature of the international economic system for 2 centuries. By then, the Atlantic slave trade had forcibly brought millions of Africans to the Caribbean and the Americas to be enslaved on estates and plantations, pens and settlements, to create immense fortunes for the major European colonial powers. Sam Sharp also was born at a time when the critique of slavery had been fairly well developed. On the economic side, Adam Smith had already published The Wealth of Nations, which asserted that the work done by free men comes cheaper than the work performed by slaves. The British humanitarians had begun their challenge of the slave trade, and on the 22nd of May 1787, Granville Sharp, Thomas Clarkson, and 10 others, including a majority of Quakers, had formed the committee which evolved into the Abolition Society. Politically, it was a world that was still feeling the effects of the French Revolution of 1789, which shook all the European monarchies and their colonial empires to the foundations. The revolution's advocacy of republicanism, as well as its denunciation of slavery, gave credence to its slogan, liberty, equality, and fraternity. It was in this new international situation, which came about as a direct result of the influence of the French Revolution, that Toussaint Louverture, himself a slave in the island neighboring Jamaica, Saint-Domingue, which eventually became Haiti, organized and led the most successful slave revolution in history. Under Toussaint, his army of slaves defeated first the local whites and their allies, then the royalist faction of the French army, a Spanish invasion, a British expedition of some 60,000 men, and then set about rebuilding the colony to its former level of prosperity. These were the general activities taking place in the world at the time when Sam Sharp was born. It is also extremely significant, although Sam Sharp would not have understood this until much later in his life, that Toussaint was not able to complete the revolution he started nor rebuild Saint-Domingue to the level of prosperity he would have liked. In 1801, he was kidnapped and exiled to France, and with him out of the way, all prospects for the orderly development and prosperity of Saint-Domingue disappeared. The first Black Republic was then drowned in blood. And the actual manner of it, I would encourage my readers, my listeners, to read and take very, very careful account. Jamaica is just 90 miles from Saint-Domingue, and the events there were graphically discussed in Jamaica by refugees who kept on coming. Sam Sharp would have been only 3 years old when the Republic of Haiti was declared. But over time, the events here would impact considerably on his own outlook and approach. From another perspective, if we go now to Southern Africa, at the time of Sam Sharp's birth, this is the time when Shaka Zulu, from his base in Southern Africa, was about to begin his spectacular entry into world history. In the space of 12 years, Shaka Zulu organized an immense army of skilled and disciplined warriors to conquer and pacify a territory larger than Europe. The military experts of Shaka Zulu certainly rivaled those of his contemporary Napoleon Bonaparte.
Running African, reuniting the African family for development.
All right, we return you now to the lecture, the Sam Sharp lecture, Arnold Bertram.
And now we come to Sam Sharp's Jamaica. What was the Jamaica in which Sam Sharp was born? For almost a century before Sam Sharp was born, no colony exceeded Jamaica's economic importance to Britain. For much of that century, 1/12 of Britain's total imports came from Jamaica. Sam Sharp's parents were among the 711,000 Africans brought to Jamaica to be enslaved in the period between the English capture of the island in 1655 and the abolition of the slave trade in 1807. I would like to give listeners just one indication of just how cruel a system plantation slavery was. If we look at the fact that 711,000 Africans came to Jamaica, and we assume a normal cycle of reproduction and increase, by the time of abolition, we would have had a population of some 2 million African Jamaicans. Yet, in the year of abolition, the slave population was only 311,000. To take this argument further, from 311,000 in 1834, after abolition, when you have a more normal rate of reproduction and increase, 150 years after, the population did move to 2 million. Who were these slaves? What was the level of training and intelligence? For a very extended period, we have been led to believe that they were in the main ignorant brutes whose first taste of civilization came as a result of their enslavement. Nothing could be further from the truth. The record shows that the slave population included engineers, builders, welders, wheelwrights, shipwrights, in short, practitioners of the most advanced skills in the then known world. The sugar factory was perhaps the most advanced technological process of the day. That's the making of sugar. And the position of head boiler to determine at what point it is taken off was a position normally held by a slave. If we look at some other examples of Sam Sharp's contemporaries, you get a much better feel for what I'm talking about. Take the case of Francis Williams, a young black man in Spanish Town. During the tenure of Governor Trelawney, 1738 to 48, the Duke of Montague decided to carry out an experiment to determine whether a Negro trained at a grammar school and then at a university would be found equal in literary attainments to a white man. Francis Williams was selected for this experiment and dutifully sent off to an English public school and from there to Cambridge University. He did exceptionally well, and on his return to Jamaica, his patron proposed a seat for him in the Legislative Council. The governor opposed his proposal on the basis that it would affect the willingness of slaves to submit to bondage if one of their own were to be so elevated. Francis Williams opened a school in Spanish Town, taught classical education. When the next governor came, he wrote an extended poem in Latin welcoming him. All to no avail. He never ever got a position in the society. Look briefly at two others of Sam Sharp's contemporaries. Born the same year as Sam Sharp was John Brown Rosseram, a slave in Portland, who at 19 years of age left for the United States, having been adopted by a Quaker family. He attended first the Hebron Academy in Maine, was then later enrolled in college in 1824, and became the first black graduate from an American college. 3 years later, along with Sam Cornish, he edited Freedom Journal, the first newspaper in the United States to be owned, operated, published and edited by African Jamaicans. Take the case on the southern side of Jamaica, Archibald Monteith, an African prince from the Igbos who was kidnapped at age 12, ended up in Jamaica and on an estate in St. Elizabeth owned by the Crepes, a Moravian family. Archibald Monteith became a leader of the Moravian Church, bought his freedom, gained considerable influence over both the enslaved and free communities in St. Elizabeth. To this day, he's venerated as a leader of that church. Very important for this lecture. How did we build a revolutionary tradition among Jamaican slaves over time? And this tradition, being what Sam Sharp inherited, in what way did it impact or contribute to the success of the Sam Sharp's Emancipation Rebellion of 1831? The historical records certainly support the claim that African slaves in Jamaica were perhaps the most rebellious in any part of the world. Look at the record. The English arrived in 1655. By the time they had established a civil administration and started the first set of plantations, there's a record of a rebellion in 1673 in the parish of St. Anne. A contemporary report states that the slaves were able to secure arms and ammunition, and about 200 of them retired to the mountains. 2 years later, this is 1679, 35 slaves were executed for participating in a conspiracy to rebel. They were at it again in 1676, and before the end of the century there were slave rebellions at Caymanas, Vere, Guanabo Vale. In a letter dated September 28, 1686, a member of the Privy Council Committee informed his colleagues that the rebel Negroes, variously reported as from 40 to 100, have made themselves plantations in the mountains, from which they descend in the plains in great numbers. All this was a prelude to the major rebellion which took place on Sutton's estate in Clarendon on the 29th of July 1690, when some 500 slaves seized arms and ammunition, killed the overseer, and this pattern continued right up to the First Maroon War of 1734. Maroon communities had been established over time by slaves who gained their freedom from the Spanish when the British came in 1655. And by the time of Sam Sharp, conducted their affairs as a virtual independent state in a liberated geographical area. Of extreme importance is the Treaty Liberated Geographical Area. Of extreme importance is the treaty arrived at between the Maroons and the British after the First Maroon War. This treaty, signed with Cudjoe at the Maroon camp in Trelawney between 1738 and 1739, listen carefully, obliged the Maroons in return for their freedom to use their best endeavors to take, kill, suppress, or destroy, either by themselves or jointly with any other number of men commanded on that service by His Excellency the Governor or Commander-in-Chief for the time being, all rebels, wheresoever they be throughout the island, unless they submit to the same terms of accommodation granted to Captain Kheru and his successors. It is at this point you have the classical point of departure in this divide and rule. The treaty signed between the Maroons and the British required the Maroons to join the British authorities to put an end to any other slave rebellion. So while we accord the respect and admiration the Maroons deserve for their consistent fight against the British slave owners, let there be no doubt that their freedom was achieved in part at the expense of the rest of the black slave population. The eminent historian C.L.R. James makes a very serious observation when he says, political treachery is not a monopoly of the white race, and political leadership is a matter of program, strategy, and tactics, and not the color of those who lead it, their oneness of origin with the people, nor past services they have rendered. And this was the background against which we now come to Taki's rebellion in 1760. Before Taki, slave rebellions are to secure the freedom for those who are fought. And in most cases, having fought, seized arms and ammunition, destroyed some property, they have retired to the mountains. Taki's rebellion establishes a different perspective. And from all we understand, Taki aimed at liberating almost the entire North Coast and establishing some kind of rule over that area. The actual conduct of Taki's war, they really started briskly. Early days they took all before them. The fort of Fort Maria set fire to Haywood Hall, took charge of Esher before doubling back to Ballard's Valley. Defeated the local militia, engaged 2 detachments of British soldiers, but in the end the Maroons decided the outcome in favor of the authorities. Taki, it was reported, met his death at the hands of the Maroons, who decollated the body in order to preserve the head as a trophy of victory. The report goes on to express some gruesome details as to how he met his death. But in the planning, scope, and the objectives of the rebellion led by Taki in 1760, we see a prelude to Sam Sharp's Emancipation Rebellion of 1831. From freedom for those who fight to running away in the hills, we have Taki wanting to preside over a liberated area on the plains, and then Sam Sharp, who establishes a difference with all previous rebellions by fighting for freedom for all, full emancipation. One other aspect that we come to of the early rebellions, and why so many of them ended without achieving the objective set out, has to do with the divisions between slave communities at the time in Jamaica. I would just like to spend a minute on the divisions which existed among the African slave community at the time. We must not lose sight of the fact that enslaved Africans, many of them, the Europeans were able to get because of warring tribes in Africa. Don Robotham, the eminent sociologist, reminds us that not much imagination is needed to realize that whatever the historical roots of those hostilities in Africa, the fact of being sold into slavery, sometimes by members of the self-same group they now confronted in the Caribbean as fellow slaves, could only have intensified the ill will which had emerged between traditional ethnic groups. Recrimination and individualism, rather than solidarity and cooperation, were thus what characterized the initial phase of enslavement in the Caribbean. By the time of Sam Sharp, an environment had been created for greater cooperation. And a major factor in this new environment was the work of the missionary churches, to which I now come, and in particular, Sam Sharp's relationship with the Baptist Church. The Moravians were the first European missionaries to arrive. They came in 1754. And it is with them that the exposure of enslaved Jamaicans to Christianity began. The native Baptists were the next to arrive, when George Lyle, a slave from the state of Virginia in the United States of America, who was ordained a minister as early as 1775 and who fought on the side of the British in the American War of Independence, in order to escape the threat of re-enslavement, accepted a suggestion from a Baptist officer that he go to Jamaica, where there was a large black population waiting to be ministered unto. Lyle arrived in Kingston in 1782 and began preaching on the Kingston race course. In spite of sustained persecution, Lyle was able to baptize some 500 persons within 7 years, and in 1791 built the first Baptist church in Jamaica at the corner of Victoria and Elster Road in Kingston. That same year, the Second Baptist Church was established, this time in Crooked Spring in the parish of St. James, by Moses Baker, who had also been enslaved in the United States and came to Jamaica. Baker traveled to Western Jamaica on the invitation of Lascelles Wynne, a Quaker and owner of Adelphi Estate in St. James. Wynne had gone to Kingston to buy some slaves, many of whom belonged to Lyle's church, and to provide for their continued religious education, Wynne secured the services of Baker. Baker and Lyle then invited the English Baptists to send a missionary to assist them, the first one coming in 1814. But it is with the arrival of Thomas Burchell in 1822 that the expansion of the English Baptist Church began. But already there was a native Baptist church, an African Jamaican church within an African Jamaican cultural tradition. I must say something about the organization of the Baptist Church, because it was this organization that Sam Sharp was able to tap into to develop the revolutionary organization which conducted the 1831 rebellion. From the Methodists and the Moravians, the Baptists learned the principles of organization, and the church was organized along these lines. The outer circle, what you call inquirers. After you're an inquirer, and after some initiation, you became a candidate. From a candidate, you became a member. And within the church, there were such offices as class leaders and deacons. Within the Baptist Church, therefore, as a means of controlling the large congregation, tickets were issued to each person indicating whether they were an inquirer, a candidate, or a member. The tickets were renewed quarterly when each slave made his financial contribution, and without a ticket he could neither attend service nor approach the communion table. It was an admirable device. It simplified the collection of money and the threat of revocation gave the minister a means of discipline over converts. The ticket which was issued by the European missionary helped him to circumvent the power of the class leaders. The class leader, however, was still the key figure. He had the power of denying admission by giving a bad report, since with such large congregation, missionaries were forced to rely on their leaders. You just have to see how both the economic and the church organization now interact. On the plantation, there's the headman, or there's the driver, there's the trusted house slave. Within the Baptist church, there's the deacon, or there's the class leader. And this is the cadre of leadership that had been built up for 50 years that Sam Sharp inherited. I've listened very often to the discussions as to whether Sam Sharp was a native Baptist or an official Baptist. My own view is that Sam Sharp was both. He was in Burchell's church as a class leader, and he was a daddy in the native Baptist church. He had access to both sets of organizations, and when you look at the leaders he recruited, there is no doubt at all that he was in touch with everybody. It was his leadership role in both branches of the Baptist Church that facilitated Sam Sharp's extensive contact with large numbers of native leaders, deacons, daddies, elders, and aides, variously named, appointed and mandated to preach Christianity. Over time, these leaders provided the medium through which the slave population encountered Christian teaching, which offered a spiritual freedom, helped them to transcend their earthly bondage, and in the end provided them with the means of establishing the solidarity and the organization for achieving freedom from slavery in this life. We come now to Sam Sharp's organizational plan. When you look at Sam Sharp's plan for rebellion, first thing to contemplate, if we go by the evidence of some of his lieutenants, they started planning as early as 1824 for a rebellion which kicked off in 1831. First aspect of Sam Sharp's preparation, he used every opportunity to improve his own information level. He read the newspapers of the day. From the English newspapers he understood the resolution of May 1830 from the Anti-Slavery Society in England proposing immediate emancipation. Then there was the Watchman newspaper, edited by two free men of color, Jamaicans, Edward Jordan and Robert Osborne, which began publication in 1829. From this newspaper, Sam Sharp developed a far better understanding of the dimensions of the fight against slavery. One of the editorials in the Watchman advocated a long pull, a strong pull, and a pull together for liberty. In preparing, Sam Sharp would also have to take into account the balance of political forces here in Jamaica. This is very important. In 1831, nearly a quarter of the slaves in Jamaica, or approximately 70,000, were owned by free blacks and browns and Jews. This view we have that only whites own slaves is not true. Slavery, slave labor, was the mode, an integral part of the mode of production. Blacks, what they did not have was large plantations. But in the urban towns in the capital, blacks had 2, 3, 5 slaves, most of them tradesmen, with whom you could make a very good living. The whites, however, saw the writing on the wall in terms of emancipation. And in 1830, a year before the Sam Sharp Rebellion, the white slave owners passed a bill in December 1830 granting civil rights, including the right to vote, to free blacks and coloreds. The following year, these rights were extended to Jews. What is on the mind of the white planters is an alliance with non-white slave owners to preserve slavery. The intention is not so much to expand civil rights and freedom, and Sam Sharp would have to take into account this changing political balance of forces. In 1831, the first year after these rights, you have John Madison being elected in Montego Bay. This is the first brown man who is going to enter the Legislative Council. And you get an understanding of the rise of Sam Sharp's intellect. I have no doubt Sam Sharp would have been involved in this campaign, because at the time of Sam Sharp's arrest, as unpopular as it would have been for Madison, who was a conservative, he was one of the people who identified himself with Sam Sharp. So, in preparing, you get a view of Sam Sharp taking into account the different forces. There's a slave army. He's making contacts among people of color who are free. He's making contacts among church leaders. He's in touch with missionaries. And you see him starting to build this broad base that he puts into operation in 1831. He would also have to take into account the fact of the Maroons, who are obligated by treaty to fight with the British against any rebellion. And then, of course, he has to take into account the actual coercive power of the colonial state. There's the militia in Western Jamaica, the militia formed by planters. The militia is organized in St. James. In all of these parishes, planters get together. And then, of course, now there are the British soldiers who would be deployed by the governor in case a rebellion began. So Sam Sharp has to take into account the military balance of forces. He has to take into account the political balance of forces. And he's informing himself as to where the state of the struggle for emancipation has reached in England and in Jamaica. It is out of these considerations that Sam Sharp opts for a general strike, not a military offensive to start with. What does a general strike do? It allows a broader balance of forces to participate. It does not begin with the destruction of property. It allows free people of color. It allows slaves. It allows sympathizers. You have the broadest range of class forces you can put to simply say, we are withdrawing our labor until there is an end to slavery and you agree to pay wages. While Sam Sharp is preparing the general strike, he's also preparing a military capacity. Because nobody of Sam Sharp's intelligence is going to be deceived that the entire slave-owning edifice is going to simply hand over freedom, hand over their state in society without a fight. And Sam Sharp, in the recruitment of his lieutenants, there is no doubt that he's taking into account this possibility. Vereen Shepherd, in a very informative paper published in the Jamaica Journal called Rebel Voices, gives us an idea as to some of these leaders that Sam Sharp had. Nearly all of them held positions on the estate, held positions in the Baptist Church. Reading the account of George Taylor, sadly in Montego Bay, the man regarded next to Sam Sharp in terms of influence and leadership, there's no doubt Sam Sharp had assembled the best collection of minds and influence over the slave population that there was. Now let us look at the military side of the preparation.
Now 17 after 8 o'clock, and let's go right to the military side of Sam Sharp's operations.
In preparing for the military side, Sam Sharp had a major challenge. Unlike the militia and the British soldiers, he could not practice, he could not train. But yet he did have a plan for a rebel military formation of sorts. But this was so rudimentary and inadequate for the task of dislodging an establishment with strong armed forces at its disposal. Sharp's military plan envisioned the formation of a large mobile body of fighters, organized in 3 or 4 companies and of local units based on a plantation or a group of adjoining plantations. The language of the leaders of the rebellion has a decidedly military tone. They themselves speak of regiments, companies, generals, colonels, captains. In terms of a military strategy, it is clear that Sam Sharp knew he could not fight the British armies in open. And you'll notice in the first round, the estates on the flat in Montego Bay like Rose Hall are out of the picture. He's concentrating on the same route that he has developed with the Baptist Church of the interior, where it is possible to wage a guerrilla-style war. Draw the regiments up to him. When the British forces come to Montego Bay, they offer the direct opposite. They don't want to pursue Sam Sharp's army on individual estates. They wait until they gather or wait for them in Montego Bay. And you see these two strategies unfolding in the conduct of the rebellion. But Sam Sharp would have had a difficulty in that he can't train soldiers in the open. It's difficult to communicate all the details of a military plan, particularly when you have mobilized the slave population on the basis of a general strike. But as the day approached, the Baptist authorities got wind of what was being planned. And Nib in particular, in Falmouth, got word, and on the 27th, went to Salters Hill in St. James, where a new Baptist chapel was to be dedicated. This was the occasion Nib used to try to demobilize the general strike and the rebellion Sam Sharp was planning. Here are Nib's words to his congregation. I am pained to the soul at being told that many of you agreed not to go to work anymore for your owners, and I fear this is true. I learned that some wicked persons persuaded you that the King of England has made you free. Hear me, I love your souls, and I would not tell you a lie for the whole world. I assure you that it is false, false as hell can make. I entreat you not to believe it, but to go to your work as formerly. Nib got a very sullen response from the over 1,000 people congregated for the opening of the new chapel. The Methodists also tried to help to defuse the rebellion. And it is significant that while Sam Sharp had planned to start on the days after the Christmas break with a general strike, it is the same night of Nib's opening of the church at Salters Hill, December 27th, that the fire is set at Kensington Estate, which brings the whole timetable of the rebellion forward and out of line with Sharp's plan. Whether the man who set it was one of those who had been upset by the talk of the missionaries that there's no possibility of freedom, nothing has been passed, they have been mistaken, they have been misinformed. But with the torching of Kensington, 16 similar fires followed the following day. The general strike was no longer an option, and for the next 3 months, the rebellion will proceed in the terms of a series of military engagements. By the 30th of December, martial law was declared, and the governor dispatched Sir Willoughby Cotton to Montego Bay with reinforcements. To give an idea of what Sam Sharp's army was arrayed against, on January the 1st, General Sir Willoughby Cotton, the officer commanding the British troops stationed in Jamaica, arrived at Montego Bay aboard the HMS Sparrowhawk. Before him, the HMS Racehorse had landed with Marines, and right after him, the HMS Blanche with soldiers from Port Royal. Already in the area were the local militias, and close by in proximity and ready were the Maroons. Once Willoughby Cotton arrived, he immediately set up a court-martial, and he expresses the view. Initially, it is to begin a series of executions to make the rebel army understand that they are fighting for their lives. There's not going to be any mercy. The series of engagements which follow shows Sam Sharp's army without the firepower of the regular soldiers, without the training that a regular army has. The strategy being to move from plantation to plantation and see as far as possible getting the slaves that are there to support. Sharp himself was very careful that he did not want to destroy property uselessly, nor did he want to take the life of anyone who did not directly oppose the objectives of freedom. The British armies, the militia, and then supported by the Maroons, are of a different cast of mind. Their whole intention is to terrorize the population. And I'm tempted to just give you a comparison in terms of members of the slave army who are killed. Corpses are left on the road to rot. Other slaves coming by are expected to be terrified. Those that are caught and are subject to a court-martial and sentence, the sentences are extremely severe. Let us take a look at some of these punishments. In St. James, 106 slaves tried by court-martial, 99 are convicted. 84 sentenced to death. The rest are given these kinds of punishments. 500 lashes. Another sentence of 300 lashes. Another sentence of 350 lashes. The actual conduct of the death penalties, whether by shooting or by hanging, you get a general impression between January right into February of just a deliberate design to terrorize this slave population. Let them know what they're up against and let them never ever think of rebelling again. In the middle of this rebellion, the planters came up with a specific kind of response. And on January 26th, they formed what we know as the Colonial Church Union. This organization is in every way a forerunner of the notorious Ku Klux Klan, which appeared in the state of Georgia at the end of the American Civil War. While professing to uphold the Constitution, the church union ran directly at the Baptist Church. The new church at Salters Hill, opened on the 27th, was the first to go, set on fire by members of the St. James militia. On the 7th of February, Nibbs Chapel in Falmouth, destroyed, followed by Stewartown Church, then Burchell's Baptist Church. Right here in St. Anne, the slaves were building the Baptist Church. 5 different occasions it was destroyed by members of the militia led by Hamilton Brown, after whom the town is named, mark you, and who was the owner of the property at Minard. But the role of the Colonial Church Union during the rebellion and the direct targeting of the Baptist Church and the Baptist populations is something that I think we have not sufficiently understood or studied enough. I come now to Sam Sharp himself during the rebellion. The movements that he's showing, he's up and down with the army, encouraging as he could, but with the consciousness that having lost the initiative of the general strike, he never ever got back the momentum of the rebellion. But still you have to consider, for Sam Sharp in St. James to have organized a rebellion in which 60,000 slaves are participating, not only slaves, a white man, Mr. Ellery, by definition, fought in Sam Sharp's army. There are records of free people of color fighting in the army, free blacks fighting in the army. This must be a major departure in terms of a class alliance of not just slaves, but fighting under slave leadership for the abolition of slavery. It's a truly remarkable feat. By March 1832, it was clear the rebellion would not achieve the objective it had set out, and the lifting of martial law was the first indication that the British authorities were satisfied that they had got the upper hand as far as rebellion is concerned. Sam Sharp himself surrendered in early April.
Gotta cut it there just a minute out, just a few seconds out actually. We're going now to the cash pot draw. We're standing by for that. Now 8:38, and of course, as you know, the member of Minister of Agriculture, Fisheries, Labour and Social Security and Member of Parliament for South St. James, in collaboration with the Welcome Hall Citizens Association, are presenting the plans for they are now presenting the 2014 staging of Flames of Freedom. And Flames of Freedom celebrates a resilient, dynamic, unflinching spirit of Sam Sharp. Roger Hasfall has been on location in Kensington, and we have had a brilliant link this morning with the folks at Kensington. We can hear the drumming in the background still, the singing is still going on, the chanting is still going on. And from here on, I think it's a church service later on, and then the activities just heightened throughout the week, all the way up to the 27th. But Roger, are you there?
I'm right there, Cabo.
Right, so we just had Roger, the Sam Sharp lecture. Granted, it was a repeat from November 5, 2006 by Arnold Bertram. But boy, when you put everything in perspective and contextualize everything, considering where you are this morning, it really does bring the story of Sam Sharp and our story to life.
Yes, you came in and out a while ago, but trying to get the end of what you said. Yeah, man. We heard that lecture well in sync with all that has been said here today, plus more, a lot of information that we never knew coming to the light. And of course, we want to send a special mention to Professor Vereen Shepherd. She also, in fact, she is the first one actually. And that one now by Mr. Bertram and so on. So it's all good. It's a wonderful feeling right now to be here. The citizens are coming out in their numbers. The chant's still going on. We're getting our cup of coffee. I know you would have wished to be here to get your cup of coffee too. Yes, the sun is out in all its glory. I mean, pretty blue skies. I mean, green trees, the lovely scenery. And I will be taking a tour down by Color Castle shortly from now. So it's all good so far. And, we have lots
more people to talk to throughout the course of the morning and so on. So we're just here doing our thing and enjoying ourselves and really celebrating the life and the work of the great. That is Sam Sharp. That is Sharp.
That is Sharp, totally.
Yes.
And Roger, you just said that the crowd is really growing there, that people are coming in. And tell us exactly where you are. Exactly. I know you don't know the area very well, but where are you exactly?
I am in Kensington. I'm on the corner. We are actually at the site that was set up, the monument for Mr. Sharp. The national flag has just gone up as well.
Right.
So we are right in the corner. And I gather where Polo Castle is. It's about just about half a mile from here. But right here was the main course of travel. That's why they have the site. This Kensington historical site right here, because it's just the main course of travel along the way. You can't miss it.
All right. Okay, chanting, drumming, singing, continuing Kensington. This is where the first flames were lit as we bring to you Flames of Freedom 2014.
And as we speak, Kabu, a symbolic flame is still burning right now. So
yes.
Yeah, everything is symbolic right now.
Everything symbolic there in Kensington. Yes. Roger will definitely be rejoining you after news and sports. Thank you so much.
And they went back to England. They went to the parliament and they come.
Okay.
All right. No, yeah. We're just picking up something from the background there. All right. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Roger. Thank you. Roger Hasfall on location in Kensington. Flames of Freedom. It's 8:45 and time now for the local and international headlines. Cheryl is standing by with that.
This is news from IRI FM, Jamaica's non-aligned news voice.
Good morning, I'm Cheryl Johnson with the local and international headlines. An immigration official in the Bahamas has been sent on administrative leave pending an investigation into allegations that he raped a Jamaican woman. Reports have emerged that the woman was allegedly raped earlier this week. It's not yet clear if the Jamaican Ministry of Foreign Affairs will intervene in the matter, as it's yet to receive official notification of the incident. Citing the similarities to the Shanique Myrie case, the Foreign Affairs Ministry, however, indicated that court matters in the Bahamas differ from in Barbados, and that the Caribbean Court of Justice, CCJ, does not have jurisdiction in the Bahamas. The Westmoreland police seized an illegal gun in Negril yesterday. The weapon, an Intratec 9mm pistol loaded with 3 rounds, was recovered during a cordon and search operation in the resort town. No one was arrested in connection with the seizure. A man who allegedly stole goats from a farm in Seaforth, St. Thomas, and was beaten by residents remains in hospital under police guard. Reports are that on Friday the man stole 3 goats, slaughtered them, and was about to escape with the carcasses when he was caught by residents. It's reported that the residents beat the alleged goat thief, who was later rescued by police and taken to hospital, where he's admitted in stable condition. The man is expected to be charged with the breaches of the Public Health and Butchers Regulation Act. And in news overseas, U.S. President Barack Obama has strongly condemned the killings of 2 New York City police officers shot by a man who then killed himself yesterday. Mr. Obama said the officers would not be going home to their loved ones, and for that there is no justification. The 2 were killed while on patrol in Brooklyn. New York's police chief says they were targeted for their uniform. The gunman had posted anti-police messages online amid continuing tensions over police tactics. Finally, the U.S. has rejected North Korea's claim that it was not responsible for a cyber attack on Sony Pictures. North Korea strongly denies carrying out the attack and invited the U.S. to take part in a joint investigation. A senior U.S. security official said North Korea should instead admit culpability and compensate Sony. North Korea strongly objects to Sony Pictures' satirical film, The Interview, which portrays the fictional killing of its leader Kim Jong-un. After the attack and threats, Sony cancelled the Christmas Day release of the film. Those were the local and international headlines. News is next at 11:45. You can go online to irfm.net to view some of the stories. Like us on facebook.com/irfmnews. Follow us on Twitter at IRFM_news. From the IRFM newsroom, I'm Cheryl Johnson.
That was news from IRFM, Jamaica's non-aligned news voice.
How are you doing, Mr. Williams?
I'm doing very well.
Yes, I can see that.
Maybe not as good as you are, but...
You know, say wicked?
I'm doing very well.
No, that's a wicked statement to make, you know.
Well, I can only speak about what I see.
You really, yes. And you can't speak about what you hear. I don't sound no way to you. Little bit different, like I might be having the flu.
Well, maybe, yes. It could have been the air condition.
No AC. You come in here every Sunday morning, I mean, no AC affect me this way.
Okay, but I mean, people change.
True.
When you get older, some things that
So it's age
wouldn't usually affect you.
So old may get old.
We are all doing so.
Okay. All right.
Gladly too.
That's true. That is true. Did you learn anything about Sam Sharp when you remember learning about Sam Sharp in any deep, serious way at school?
No.
Neither me. Interestingly enough.
Yeah, well.
You know, you used to get the little buttons with, the national hero and Heroes Day.
In October.
Right.
You usually get buttons and
then when you walk.
And classes usually are centered around national heroes,
right?
And you have concerts and you have all kind of things.
But but not you don't really learn anything about the heroes. You just get the buttons.
Well, you learn some things.
You learn
nothing. As time goes by, you learn a lot more.
True. I mean, I don't learn nothing. We just get the little buttons, and then now you when you walk, you can walk and kick every Marcus Garvey button. People used to dash them. The children used to throw the Marcus Garvey button because Marcus Garvey was too black. So the buttons that everybody, at my school, the buttons that everybody wanted was Bustamante and George William Gordon and maybe Sam Sharp.
Well, I know that we used to collect the buttons, so everybody wanted to have a full set out.
Okay. The boy put me things.
So everybody tried as much as possible to have a full complement of buttons. Yeah. Because you don't want to be walking around with two buttons, you want all of them.
Okay. Well, that's that. Your school, that was school at?
Fern Court.
All right.
Yeah. So we usually want to have the buttons.
Okay, great. Good Fern Court, good. So Roger is down there in Kensington.
Oh, I heard him a while ago.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm down there with him kit.
Was it around this time that we were down there in search of?
Right, that is true. And what's interesting too is that you mentioned October, and it's usually in October that you're talking about the heroes, but you don't talk about them. Like, for example, Sam Sharp, we know it was the so-called Christmas Rebellion, the Emancipation Wars, but we wouldn't talk about them around this time, leading into the Christmas holidays. You wouldn't hear anything about.
What we would hear about heroes, or what we would talk about, is when their birthdays come up.
Right, possibly.
And it would be mentioned on that day. And but basically,
definitely Heroes Week.
Everybody,
you've been hearing about the heroes
mentioned, and until their birthdays individually.
Yeah. So in Kensington, Minister Derek Kelleher, and he does this every year, and he's been doing it for many years. In terms of observing the Derek Kelleher. And he does this every year, and he's been doing it for many years. In terms of observing the Emancipation Wars that took place around about this time, led by Sam Sharp. He does that every year, for years now. Remember, we went down there,
right? That's what I'm saying, right? Yes. We went in search of.
Yes, in search of Sam Sharp. Yes, and we found Derek Kelleher.
Well, he was actually a part of it.
We had to find him because he was so integrally involved.
The very first meeting, stakeholders meeting that we had down there, he was there.
Yes, wasn't that at at Kensington? Was it Kensington?
No, it wasn't Kensington.
Oh, it was a parish council.
No, man. I remember we went to the school.
Oh, it was a school?
Yes,
okay.
and he was there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that was when we went to the school.
Right.
Oh. Well, you were driving, so you'd remember more than me. I mean, just know so we reach. Yeah, it's true. We also went to Catadupa. Remember we went to Catadupa?
Yes, we went to Catadupa.
And Croydon, and we went down to Croydon Estate, and it was all cordoned off.
we were looking. We were on the hill looking over all those places.
From Katadupa to Kensington, from Kensington.
Have you been back down that side since then?
Yes, to Katadupa.
You'd find a way back there.
No, but I don't drive none of the time. Let me only drive. I don't find my way none of the time.
What if you were the navigator?
Me not navigate though, you know. me not such a. I can't find my way if somebody drive me.
You wouldn't be finding your way. You would be getting there.
Yes, but you can find your way, don't you? Because I remember you drove, right?
Yes. I could find my way for sure.
Yes. And I heard Roger saying this morning that it's 11 miles and it took him a long time to reach 11 miles from Montego Bay. So Roger must have had a difficult time last night.
Maybe the road's not so good as they were.
I heard him saying he was going slowly.
The roads weren't that bad when we went there. Apart from there were little areas where the road was bad, but apart from being narrow.
Yeah, they weren't bad, but we had lots of rains over the last few weeks.
Even where there isn't any bad road, you'll find bad roads now.
Yes.
Because of the amount of rain that we've been having.
And for people who are going home for Christmas holidays and for Kwanzaa, you know, because Jamaica, when it comes to Christmas, a family time still for people, you know.
Definitely.
And you head home.
Definitely.
Right? So like myself, who heading to Hopewell, me heading home. You know.
To where?
To Hopewell, man.
Hopewell is weird.
Me no say I think Hanover, but another way.
Okay, because I was wondering when since you're from Hanover.
No, I mean not Hopewell, Hanover, Hopewell, St. Mary. Yes.
Okay.
So we were head that way.
Okay.
My mother already tell me, say, don't drive through Liscard, drive through Richmond. Because the road gone. Dr. Guy, me hear so the road gone. But me see Dr. Guy on the TV, me saw a film, it's $100 million so far?
So far.
In terms of the damage?
It's more than 3 weeks of rain.
I know.
So all that was really good would get a little.
You know what I said?
A little injury.
Even the IFM yard of potholes.
That the pothole come over from time to time.
It comes from time to time. It's a recurring pothole. Okay.
I've nothing to do
the
with
one that when you're coming into the security gate, it just boom. It's a recurring pothole.
Yes.
Well, but even we.
So we can't complain about pothole because we have one.
No. But St. Mary really.
Even in Ochi Central Ochi.
I haven't been downtown since the rains.
A lot of potholes have been burned. Because you just
during
the rain time you drive going east and and by the time you're coming back, there's a pothole. Boom.
So even Ochi town?
Yes. I noticed they filled some of them like they put dirt in it. But you know,
dirt?
Something soft, I don't know what it is. Because some of them getting back deeper and deeper now. Because I think it was something like a little stopgap effort.
Yeah.
You know, but a lot of potholes,
man. But they put stones more than something we can wash out.
But I guess, as I said, probably a stopgap.
We've had some heavy rains now. You know that?
It's more than 3 weeks of rain.
Robert, and no ordinary rain either. No. Look here, you see when you're passing by Prospect, that turn off to go to Country Club. Do you know when I said we have about 6 waterfalls just a gallop out of the
I've not passed that side.
Look here, we have waterfalls that I never know exist, that we have mini Duns rivers.
Because the water table has lifted.
Yeah, it's a weird thing.
It's a whole heap of rain. It's a lot of rain. Remember, you would find that, because of coming off that hill there.
Which hill?
It's a Country Club. Remember that is a hill, so water would be coming down towards the sea.
It coming through the rocks on the side of the road, you know. Wow, that's quite something.
It's a whole heap of rain, man, and it's 3 weeks. So that and it fall hard every day.
It stop it?
It seemed a little strange to me to see 2 days and we haven't had any rain.
It's true.
We get so accustomed to having rain.
Yeah. I love the rain, that's the thing,
I love it.
The harder the fall, the better for me.
I love it and I don't love it.
Me really love the rain.
Because sometimes when it is raining, you love it, But after when you see the after effects of it, boy.
The road and the mud and the...
But it is a good time and it is a bad time. Because nobody can complain about drought anymore.
Well, we on this side.
Especially
But when I see the water gallop like that, may I ask myself, where is this water going? We have catchment areas, where is this water being stored, or it just go back to the sea?
Yeah, but the funny thing about it, last week we were in St. Elizabeth, coming from St. Elizabeth and listening to the news. And we were saying, but it's the same country. Son got killed with down in St. Elizabeth. And we hear about flooding in Oterius. What is
Well,
this?
that's the thing I'm saying. We should harness the Oterius water to feed St. Elizabeth. You know?
They had some rains down there before, I understand. But while we were there, it was bright and sunny and beautiful.
Yeah.
But down this side was flooding.
Boy, if you weren't in this side of town, you can't understand what we're talking about. We're talking about some serious showers.
Then while coming in now, you realize that it is raining so heavily that you couldn't see anything in front of you.
Yes.
It was falling that hard.
Yeah, I know.
And that was how it went for 2-3 weeks.
Yeah. I was kind of sorry for the people who were driving the smaller vehicles because the water was full of water.
Yes, yes.
And if you have that much water, like my husband commented me, don't drive out here to me leaving work, because when the vehicles, like when you reach couples and so on, and vehicles splash you, you won't be able to see what
anything.
But
right.
that not really good for me.
Yeah, because you're up in the sky. You're way up in the sky. You're not like us who down at the bottom there.
No, like
that
us. No, like him.
They have to splash like they have to splash real hard to affect you.
I see a truck would have to go past me to affect me. Yeah. But that's what I'm saying. But you know, some is a woman who drive everything, any little thing. So if I was driving the other little vehicle, you know the little vehicle me and you used to drive them.
No, we wouldn't be able to go on the road.
Couldn't go on the road. Exactly. But Robert, on another note, I see Muhammad Ali is in hospital.
Is that so?
Type it in and see.
I haven't seen that. Remember, he has his challenges, and Ali is not a young boy neither, you know.
True, but I think I'm seeing something where he's there for pneumonia or something. I could be wrong. You find it?
No, not yet.
Your type's a slow master. We don't have no time, you know. We have to go back to join Roger at Kensington. We have all morning.
Muhammad Ali in hospital with pneumonia. All the big stars going to hospital with something now. Pele just come out there.
Yeah, with the same. Is it the same thing? Pneumonia?
No. Pele had.
Oh, yeah, it was urinary tract infection.
Yeah, it's true. The prognosis is good, they say.
Okay.
He's 72-year-old. And you know, he's had Parkinson's disease. Right. It's a mild case of pneumonia. But because it's Ali, you know.
Yeah, and then I just glimpsed it just now. Right, so, you can't give me an update on what happened at the Senate the other day, the break-in.
You mean,
in Gordon House.
Then breaking up everywhere, you know. So why would it not happen?
Because I asked you if you have any update, we never asked if it happened.
I wasn't there.
What did it? What exactly was stolen?
Listen, I heard about a computer.
Oh.
At the time they were...
somebody was saying it was a cabinet.
The cabinet?
That was stolen.
Well, we'll wait. We wouldn't know until next year.
You won't know until what, them on recess?
I would think so. It's Christmas now, you know.
Oh, okay.
Everybody on recess.
Okay.
Except me.
Oh, well.
I am not yet on recess.
Okay. And I saw Bobby Montague. You know, Bobby always make me laugh, you know, in Parliament talking about the good intentions of the government ministers, but them just can't manage.
He would know that. He would know about his good intention as a government minister too.
Yes.
And they weren't able to manage. So, that is what they say.
He's very intimate with that kind of situation.
Coming from the horse's mouth.
From the horse's mouth. Yeah. Bobby, boy, I tell you. No, me say it is Robert.
It's a fact.
Yes.
Yeah, anyway. That's how it is.
Anyway, happy Kwanzaa and Merry Christmas when it comes.
Thank you very much, and the same to you.
Right.
Looking forward to a peaceful one.
Yeah, you're heading home, Claremont?
I'm heading everywhere.
Okay.
Home. I'm going to be at home, and I'm going to be heading home.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's how it all goes.
That's how it is.
Yeah, man.
And that's how it has to be.
Exactly.
So we're looking forward to it.
Yeah, thank you.
And all the blessings that the season bring.
Yeah, including the cake and so.
Well, not too much of the cake, but of course I will indulge.
Of course you will indulge.
I'm too well bred to refuse.
Yeah.
So the offers will be made.
Okay.
I won't say no.
Right. So or bake?
No, we call it no. That has been contracted.
Alright, you might have to tell me they're not a government. Probably are using the same contractor.
I I don't know the contractor, but
you don't know the contractor.
That aspect of the thing has been contracted.
Yeah, sometimes you just have to contract the thing out.
Yeah, you have to do that.
Sometimes, yeah.
It makes good sense economically and otherwise.
Yeah, time-wise. Thank you very much, Mr. Williams.
All right, take care.
7 minutes now after 9 o'clock.
Jeffrey Africa. Running Africa ni. Ahaya Jamaica. So what take kaka say boso kadia. Ewo Ire FM.
We are the sons of the enslaved. We want repatriation. We are the sons of the enslaved. And we want repatriation.
All right, just because we're so stuffy, just because I'm so stuffy, I'm not reading a lot of your texts and a lot of your messages, but just to say to Kevoy Stevens on Facebook, good morning. He says, today I realized how wicked slavery was. I was stripping some cocoa beans that was parched and my big finger corn up. Can you imagine the slaves are enslaved, picking cotton all day? You know that cotton has a little thorn on it that would sometimes stick them. Wow, greatest atrocity against man. Wow, may I tell you, Kevoy. Selector Princess, thank you so much. Thank you so much. To all our listeners on the social media, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Reddit, dig it, Foursquare. We're going to be going back to you on the 107. Thank you so much on the 107. Thank you so much. And thanks to Arnold Bertram, who delivered that lecture, the Sam Sharp lecture, in 2006, November 2006. We were more or less finished. The lecture, we had just about a minute and a half to go, so don't think that you were robbed. He was just wrapping up, but we had to go to the cash pot. All right, right now we're going to be going back to Kensington, where Roger Haspel is participating in the activities, commemorating, remembering, honoring our obligation to remember Sam Sharp and the Emancipation Wars. So we're standing by to rejoin Roger Haspel there in Kensington. The activities kick off. Well, they kicked off last week, Thursday. They continue today and throughout the rest of this week. And when Roger comes back, we'll hear more from him about what's involved for the rest of this week.
Just take a stock and you will see my blood is in your coffee and my blood is in your tea.
Interesting times ahead. We've got so much to talk about as we go into the new year. So much to revisit, so much to pay attention to, but also it's action time.
Check your eyes for read. It's there for you to see.
All right, we're standing by. We're standing by to join Roger Haspel in Kensington.
Sean, we are the sons of the enslaved, and we want reparation. Living off the proceeds of slavery.
December 30, 1831, over 160 estates were destroyed by fire. Martial law was proclaimed by the Earl of Belmore, Governor of Jamaica. In the Montego Bay Marketplace, May 23, 1832, Sam Sharp was executed between 12 and 1 o'clock. He faced death with great fortitude. He had opened the door to emancipation, August 1, 1834. Full freedom came August 1, 1838, 6 years and 3 months after the execution, the assassination of Samuel Sharp. All right, as we go back to Kensington, where Roger Haspel is participating in the events to celebrate Sam Sharp and the Great Liberator and the Emancipation Wars. Roger?
Yes, I'm here.
All right over to you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Well, I'm here participating in the festivities that is paying homage to the seminal event
that led to the downfall of slavery in the Western Hemisphere. Here celebrating the life and work of Daddy Sam Sharp, right here at the Kensington Historical Site, here in Kensington. Wonderful morning. We started out in all its glory. Pretty blue skies, lush vegetation, beautiful trees. Everything is everything. The community is out in their numbers. Stars passing by, giving us a hail. Listening to the program on IRA FM. And it's a wonderful feeling right now. A Rasta Black is passing through. Yes, man, chanting on Babylon as usual, and it's a wonderful vibe, you know. And so much things has to know, so much things to learn about the role that Sam Sharp played in liberating us as a people. And I learned so much things. I want to know some people can give us some information in regards to what a musket gun is. The musket gun is what the military used to suppress the African enslaved down here. I want to learn a little bit about that. There's a man named Mashati, and just to get that information from, once again, Noel Chung. We spoke about Mashati, and before we go to Noel Chung, who will tell us about that. There's a world premiere down here, which we will hear a little later from now in regards to what they built on site and they want to record it about the event of 1831 down this side of the world here. But there was a man named Mashati as we come back to Noel Chung. An interesting name. We want to know how he got that name and who that person is in regards to the whole Baptist war, Sam Sharp war, all the names that is associated with this event. Yes, tell us about Mashati.
Mashati mother was a house slave at the Kensington Great House. And when the rebellion started, she had this little baby in her hand and she ran. And the baby dropped out of her.
Alright, back up. Come again.
Mashati, mother, was a house slave at the Kensington Great House. And when the rebellion broke out, she ran at night. And the baby dropped out of his hand. Her hand. And she ran and left the baby. The next day, the planters and so they find the baby, and the baby was alive. So they called the nickname the baby Mashati. Mashati come and have 8 children. And Tasca Black right here is one of the great grandchild of Mashati.
Oh, so Tasca Black is a descendant of Mashati?
Yes. Also me.
Also you?
Yes.
Okay.
And a lot of people in the here.
And a lot of people. So a lot of people out here so are descendants of this Mashati who dropped out of the slave lady and because she was running. Because when the slaves started,
when the house was on
yes. And it said it's overlooking that side. The great house. Right. All right. Tell me about the great house itself and Solo. Because this man's name, this was a slave owner, Solo. The Solo can't escape, but Solo. Was Solo killed in the rebellion?
No. He said he barely survived.
He barely survived.
He
ran to Black Star?
No, to Chartersville, the Baptist churches. Where they have the church.
Oh, he ran to Chartersville?
Yes.
That's the Baptist church?
Yes.
Well, so he barely survived because they came for him?
No, his plantation was on fire and his house was on fire.
Yes.
By the slave rebellion, so he said he barely survived. And he was bruised and cut and battered. And when he carried this information down there, all the other planters, the whole ceremony mashed up, everybody running in a different direction with the news. Not only that they didn't get their freedom from England, but the rebellion was on. So everybody was running home to secure those space stack, but it spread. So they got a good view from here to Palmyra. So they continue, they learn their thoughts also Palmyra, and in Trelawney they see it and they continue with it. It was planted.
So the signals were
from the
various plantations.
Yes, because of the height. They use it at the advantage. So the other one could see when the fire lighter came, it was time for them to start also. Musket gun. What is a musket gun? Because we always hear about musket gun. These were the gun of the day, the technology of the day. Tell me because I mean, soldiers use Yes. They have you can see in the movie how they use this stick. They put the gunpowder down from the front and they ram it down with the rod. Yes. So the soldier have a little bag, the gunpowder, where he up and throw gunpowder down. And the musket ball is made out of stone. It's a little round ball around 5 feet in diameter. And they put it down. And then they fire, but only one time it can fire, so they always have some reload. Oh, that's the original reload. Yes, but they always come in their bright red coat. So you see red. So the soldiers usually wear the red coat. Yeah, paint a picture for us of what all the soldiers look like. The red coat, yeah, the white pants and the black boot. Red coat, white pants, black boot. Yes, and you could spot them because the red coat was used when if the blood, if they get damaged in the war, yes, the red coat would hide the blood. Yes, so the next soldier beside him wouldn't get so terrified. Yes. Oh. So the red hide the blood, but it showed them up to the maroon. Yes. That's what poem with the maroon will tell you about everything. It says peace, peace. Who want peace? No, the Queen of England want peace. Maroon there, they kill British soldier. British soldier they come. Them a come, them a come. You can't spot them from a distance. Them a come. Red coat, black boot, and musket gun. Them a come, them a come. But Maroon smart. Are you first teach the world how to dress the war? Are you first to camouflage? Because you wrap up in a leaf and stand up like a tree. British soldiers they come, but them just couldn't see. Them coming at them 100. Maroon kill 99 and he send back 1. He said peace, peace. Who want peace? So the Queen of England want peace, but white man smart. When the Maroon couldn't found, they send a Cuba, it's some own. The dog come back and a sniff all around. And when you look, every Maroon was found. So them signed the peace treaty in 1739 with the Jimokozo. And the Queen of England get peace. The Queen of England get peace. Ah, all right, thank you. I'm trying now by Safety Price. Cabo, are you there with me? You're following?
Following you closely, Roger.
Great,
yeah, man.
great. Safety Price. She's a committee member, the Flames of Freedom committee member. The rose among the thorns here, right? I mean, good morning to you. How are you doing?
Good morning. I'm great.
Yes. I mean, tell us about the work of the committee and, I mean, your role in terms of getting everything into shape.
The work of the committee, basically, we come together. We're planning the entire event. On the 10th of December, we had a lecture at the Samshire Teachers College, where we invited schools and members of the community over, and we taught them about Samshire. This morning, this is also a part of the planning that we've gone through. We've been mobilizing the communities, giving them information, inviting them to come out on the 27th so that we can have the run. We have invited students from the schools to come out and join us for the run, because the run is going to be from Catadupa to Montego Bay and to Kensington. So we have enlisted the communities that are going to be involved and students from the schools so that we can have not one person being tired during the run. Mm-hmm. Also, today, we have IRA FM here because we want to not just mobilize Jamaica, but we want to educate Jamaica more about Sam Sharp and what he was really about. We want, in my opinion, we have so many role models that does not count. And Sam Sharp is a great role model. He stood up for what he believed in and was willing to die. And more Jamaicans need to know about Sam Sharp and what he was really about. Not just that he was a Jamaican, a hero in Jamaica. So today, after you have left here today, we'll go to the church service where we will. Sam Sharp was a Baptist and he was a Christian. He was a Baptist deacon. So today we'll be celebrating Sam Sharp in the church. And we'll be having that ceremony at the Sutton Hill Baptist Church. And then on the 27th is the big finale where we're going to be having the Flames of Freedom run. We are inviting all the communities to come out that we're going to be a part of. We're going through. We're inviting all the communities to come out and just join us in the celebration. This is where we're coming from. And the truth about it, if we cannot accept where we're coming from, know where we're coming from, accept it as a part of us, then we can't really move on.
Exactly.
You know, so we want the communities to come out, celebrate this with us, and also to come down on the night of the 27th for the big finale and just enjoy the freedom that we have in Samshar.
Yes, indeed. Mr. Surprise Committee member, Flames of Freedom. Symbolic flame burning as we speak.
Roger, can you just find out from her exactly what is going to happen on the 27th in a little bit more detail? I understand Professor Vereen Shepherd will also be speaking, and then there is a culmination of the events. Can we get some more information on the 27th itself?
Well, I guess she has heard you, so I guess you continue. Yes, go ahead.
Well, more detail on the 27th.
In terms of what is going to be happening on the 27th, I know there's the Flames of Freedom in terms of a torch run. What's the route of the run, and is it culminating in Sam Sharp Square? What's going to be happening there? Where's the event taking place? Are people coming back to Kensington? Just some idea of location and so on.
The route of the torch run. Well, we'll be starting at Kensington.
We'll be at Coordinate State, right? And then we move from Coordinate State, we're coming through all the communities there, coming through Marshman Road, then into Retrieve, then we stop at Cambridge. Once we get to Cambridge, we stop and we light a torch. Then we move out from Cambridge and we stop at Seven Rivers, which is one of the free villages in this area. Then we move from Seven Rivers to Bickerstead, another free village in the area. And then when we move from Bickerstead, we pause for about 15 minutes at Montpelier, because we celebrate the Battle of Montpelier, where the ancestors took them to the task. And also the part that Montpelier held a hospital for the enslaved Africans. We move from Montpelier and stop at Mount Kheru. And once we go through Mount Kheru now, which is another free village, we end up in an anchovy. Come down into, we're going into for Samsar Square. So we come down into Montego Bay at Westgate, go to Barnett Street, into Harbour Street, come round City Centre, up St. James Street, into Sam Sharp Square. Once we get into Sam Sharp Square, we're laying our tribute at the statue of Sam Sharp, but we're also recognizing the Freedom Monument, the 500 persons who were killed with, as a result of that battle. Because sometimes we remember the leaders, but we don't remember the people who give their lives as well, and we have to change that. Right. Then we move out of Sam Sharp Square, and we're going back through Barnett Street, turn on Creek Street, come around and catch up Humber Avenue, and then catch Barnett Street again into Westgate. Then we move from there into Granville, because we must recognize Sam Sharp Teachers College. Yeah. And by the way, Kabu, it is alleged, it is said that, you remember when they killed these people, with so many Africans, where were they buried? It's alleged that there's a mass grave, coincidentally, where Sam Sharp Teachers College is, which is where it said that a lot of these Africans were actually buried in a mass grave.
Wow, that's interesting. So I'm just getting a note from my brother Bert Samuels, who said something earlier that in terms of those freedom warriors who were killed by the British, that there must be a day of mourning for all of these persons who were executed, African Jamaicans executed by the British here in Jamaica. And I think it really is a brilliant idea that he has put forward, and that you hear you say this.
You will remember though, Cabo, that in 2007, in the 200th celebration of the abolition of the slave trade, the 200th anniversary, so Vereen and I, we and the committee worked on, we had a ceremonial official funeral for all the Africans
at the waterfront.
Remember?
Yeah, we were there. Bert Samuel was there, and I think he understands that.
The waterfront.
Yes, I think he was talking about something a little.
Right.
Yeah.
And we had 9 nights all across Jamaica just before.
Yes.
So we move into Granville, move through Tucker into the location at Worcester where our original Salterville used to be. Stop there a minute. Then we go into John's Hall. Then we move all the way up into pass through Springmount into Springfield. Pause at Springfield for a while for refreshment. And then the torch will arrive by about 9 o'clock in the ceremony that would have already started at Tolo Castle. That ceremony starts at 8 o'clock with the Baptist Church and their congregation and their choirs starting with a devotional exercise. And then at 9 o'clock when the torch comes, Bam. Minister Kelly speaks. Prof. Perrine Shepherd is the keynote speaker. And then the torch is used to symbolically light a trash house. We burn it down again. And then all of us sing with them to sing together because we have a chant for freedom. And then part 5 we'll take it on with the artists then for a concert celebrating the victory of 1831.
And remember, reminding ourselves that it's an unfinished revolution.
It is an unfinished revolution because like all revolutions, it never done.
Let me ask you this, Sydney. For persons, I mean, I know that there's a route of a torch run and so on, and it's very involved. For persons who just want to be there for the ceremony, they will be gathering at Tulla Castle.
They will be gathering at Tulla Castle.
Right. And for persons who want to participate in any little thing that's happening at Sam Sharp Square?
3:30. The torch run will leave off from Catadoop at 11 o'clock. Okay. It should get into Sam Sharp Square at 3:30.
And then
there's a half-hour ceremony in Sam Sharp Square. And then everything now is heading to Tulla Castle.
All right.
Because that is where the big thing go on.
Yes, sounds very good.
And Kabu.
Yes.
Remember you say you're coming in. They are telling them by national radio. You're a woman who always keep your word.
And you know, what's interesting about that, is that while I want to be there, I did not say that. And this is why I have to say, I have to answer you on the radio. Right?
Kabu.
No, let's not, right. I know it was.
It's close to the public in Jamaica that IRI FM will be there in some form or the other.
Make it the other.
Roger
make it the other.
An apartment down here. It's not going to be the other. Make sure, because if it don't happen, ancestral.
Yes, but
ancestral.
Let us not go there. Let us not work it out. Let's not work it out on the air. Yes.
You're the symbolic lady that threw the fire.
Of course. But Kabu, tell me that. Kabu say, one of our grandmother was the lady who threw the fire. I like Kabu.
No, I said that I did it. I said I did it because I am the daughter of earth and water. I'm a nursling of a sky. I pass through the pores of the oceans and the shores. I change, but I cannot die. Look here, look here.
Phenomenal. And still you rise.
Exactly. Look at Roger. Roger, you're sitting here telling everybody down. I have to go to a break, right, Roger?
You 2 years son.
All right, headed to a break. Kabu, we'll be back.
We'll be back. You with a song.
Okay, all right. Okay, a quick break. 9:30, you're inside of the Africa Forum. It is Running African. We have to do this for about 10 minutes. Pay tribute and honor our ancestors, those who were tried and sentenced for their role in the 1831-1832 Emancipation War in Jamaica, the parish of Westmoreland.
I wish I knew how it would feel to be free. I wish I could break all the chains holding me. Say I'm loud, say I'm clear, for the whole round world to hear.
Garrick from Belfast in St. James, sentenced to 259 lashes. David Gibson from Clifton, sentenced to death. John Gilling, owned by Mrs. Parcher, sentenced to 36 lashes. Ishmael, alias Billy Grant from Prospect, 100 lashes. James Green, Clifton, sentenced to death. Frederick Gray from Rose Hill, sentenced to 100 lashes. Sam Hilton from Lambs River, sentenced to 100 lashes. Philip Irving from McHale's Prospect, sentenced to 100 lashes.
William McIntosh from Belfontaine St. James, sentenced to 250 lashes. Duncan Mackenzie from Flower Hill, sentenced to be transported. William McKinley, owned by S. Whittingham, sentenced to death. Richard McLeod from McHale's Prospect, sentenced to death. James Miller, owned by Dr. Fuller, sentenced to 160 lashes. John Morris from Clifton, acquitted. Coffee, alias Richard Morrison from Rock Pleasant, sentenced to be transported.
Richard Shelton from Ducket Spring and Lambs River, sentenced to 200 lashes. Premier, alias Richard Skelton from Co Park, sentenced to be transported. John M.L. Stevens from Sevenage, sentenced to 200 lashes. George Tharp, owned by enslaver George Tharp, sentenced to 150 lashes. Titus, alias George Waite from Richmond, sentenced to death. George Watson from Horton Grove, sentenced to be transported.
Robert Whitehorn from Clontarf, sentenced to death. Edward Whittingham from Cow Park, sentenced to 200 lashes. Eliza Whittingham from Cow Park, sentenced to death. Jane Whittingham from Cow Park, sentenced to be hanged. S. Whittingham from Cow Park, sentenced to be transported. Robert Wigan from Lambs River, sentenced to be transported. Archie Wilson, owned by enslaver Archibald Wilson, sentenced to 150 lashes. John Wiley from Barnside, sentenced to be transported.
Robert Morris, owned by Mary Spence, Stewie, sentenced to death. George Murray from Clifton, sentenced to death. Edward Partner, owned by Isabella Partner, sentenced to death. Philip, owned by William Shellett, sentenced to 6 months imprisonment.
Southern trees, barren, strange fruit, blood on the leaves, black bodies swinging in the southern breeze.
Henry Cooper from Cow Park, sentenced to death. Henry Cowan from Argyle Pen, sentenced to death. Robert Davis from Sweet River, sentenced to be transported. Thomas Davis from Enfield, sentenced to be transported. Matty, alias Richard Drackett, owned by Mary Torrent, acquitted. John Ellory, owned by a white sailor, sentenced 14 days imprisonment. Hugh Ferguson from Clifton, sentenced to death. William Ferguson from Clifton, acquitted. Jack, alias John Fleming, owned by Daniel McGibbon, sentenced to 50 lashes.
William Evans, alias Alexander Bentlos from Welsh Pool Plantation, sentenced to death. William Brooks. Edward Barrett from Ducket Spring and the Lambs River Plantation, sentenced to death. John Bull, owned by Edward J. Young, sentenced to death. John Campbell from Floor Hill, sentenced to 120 lashes. William Chambers, owned by Mary Gray, sentenced to death. David Clark, owned by a Mr. Young, sentenced to 120 lashes.
Samuel Jarrett from Crow Park, sentenced to death. Amelia Johnson, acquitted. Nelson Carr from Belfast St. James, sentenced to 250 lashes. Edward Lambden from Barneside, sentenced to death. Robert Lambert, owned by William Gillette, Esquire, sentenced to 39 lashes. John Linton from Heritage, sentenced to death. Joe Little from Welchpool, sentenced to be hanged but mercifully escaped.
James Reed from Hermitage, sentenced to death. Thomas Reed from Lambs River, sentenced to 150 lashes. James Ricketts, owned by Edward J. Young, sentenced to death. Thomas Rook, McHale's Prospect, sentenced to 100 lashes. Samuel Sampson, owned by Mary Torrent, sentenced to 14 days imprisonment.
William Martin from Cow Park, sentenced to be transported. A.C. McHale from McHale's Prospect, sentenced to death. George McHale from McHale's Prospect, sentenced to 100 lashes. John McCallum from McHale's Prospect, sentenced to 60 lashes. Robert McGee from Cow Park, sentenced to 200 lashes. Alexander McGrother, owned by Mary Torrent, sentenced to 200 lashes. James McIntosh, owned by Amelia McIntosh, sentenced to 250 lashes. Richard, alias Richard McIntosh from Belfont in St. James, sentenced to 100 lashes.
Robert Allen, owned by enslaver Isabella Partner, sentenced to 4 dozen lashes. Jack Anderson, from the Retrieve Plantation, sentenced to death. John Appleton from the Duckett Spring and Lambs River Plantation, sentenced to 100 lashes. David Atkinson from Darlaston, sentenced to death. William Atkinson, Darlaston, sentenced to death. Fred, alias William Ball, owned by enslaver Mary Millin, sentenced to death. Daniel Barrijam from Chillons, sentenced to death. Billy, alias William Binham, from Golden Spring, sentenced to death.
Blood on the leaves and blood at the roots. Black bodies swinging in the southern breeze.
We remember and honor those who walked and worked before us and thus paved the path down which we now walk.
Hanging from the poplar trees.
Honoring our obligations to remember. We say their names, we say their names, we say their names.
Of the gallant.
If we forget their names, then we forget the reason for the revolution. We forget the reason for the struggle. We forget the reason.
And the twisted mouth.
Honoring our obligation to remember Sam Sharp. Honoring our obligation to remember the Emancipation Wars. Honoring our obligation to bear witness to the fact that it's not yet finished.
Then the sudden smell.
That is an unfinished revolution. That even while we gather to celebrate and to remember and to commemorate, that we will not whitewash.
Here is a fruit. For the crows to pluck, for the rain to gather, for the wind to suck.
Until we have removed all their names from places of honor in Jamaica. Until we have stripped away all their names from all the places of honor. I'm talking about the enslavers. We still have an unfinished revolution. Until there's no reparations, or until there is reparations, we still have an obligation to remember. Until we can own land, and until there is the possibility for the least among us to own our own piece of land, then it is an unfinished revolution. Now 9:46, and we want to go back to Kensington for one last link with Roger Hasfall and the team there in Kensington.
Free Africa. Running Africa, Ahaya Jamaica. So what take Kaka say boss Kadia? Ewo Ire FM.
All right, making one final connection with Roger Hasfall in Kensington as we celebrated remembering the Sam Sharp and those who fought and died and survived those brutal periods. Roger, you there?
Yes, I'm here, Kheru.
Yes, go right ahead. This is our final
Okay.
link.
Yeah. Give me an indication of how much time I have. Thank you very much.
5 minutes?
5 minutes. Okay, I have 5 minutes to attend to people. So let me quickly wrap up with Mr. Landell Clayton. He is the president of the Welcome Hall Citizens Association. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Yes, and I gather you want to pay some homage to...
Yes, I'm the former president, like Wesley Fowles, Herbie Hearn, teacher Dan Carter Henry, and teacher Owens. Mrs. McLean, who is among us. The first four names that I called, they are all gone ahead of us. But we have like Miss McLean, who works with the SDC, Mrs. Nelson, that's Yvette Nelson, Mr. Chung, Mr. Albert Johnson. Those were the first persons who started
the Welcome All Citizens Association.
Yes.
I inherit all what is going on now.
Right.
So we have to give thanks to all those persons, because if it hadn't been for them, we wouldn't be here celebrating the stamp shop. So we have to give a big round of applause to the past people. Yes. And among us here, we have one of Mr. Paul's daughter who is here. She is trying to say something. So, Mr. Paul's daughter. Yes, and adding to that, the member of Parliament, the Honorable Mr. Derrick Kelly, he's not here now, but we intend to meet with him in a few minutes at the Salterville Baptist Church.
Okay.
So I want to thank, on behalf of the Welcome Our Citizens Association, I want to say thanks to IRI FM, and I hope to see you next year when it's bigger and better. Next week. Next week. What's your name again? Yes.
Yes. I'm here at the Kensington, the Tullow Castle historical site, the monument at the roadside, and it has been a great morning. I have seen where we have been learning a lot about our hero Samuel Sharp, known as Daddy Sharp.
Yes.
And we are happy this morning to know that in 1831 or 1838, when the slavery was abolished, we now are inheriting what has gone, what has happened at that time. I must say a few words about my father. My father was left the community happy today because he has done so much. He has taken out the people, bring them down to Tullow, have a great time with them. He started, even though he was a church deacon, just like Sam Sharp, he still did not resist giving the other people who weren't a Christian their chance to enjoy themselves, because after the show, he normally has the sound system.
Yes.
And we are going to continue the whole thing by educating the community with a computer center which should be erected anytime soon, and the children will benefit from it. I welcome IRFM again, and I hope to see everybody out on the 27th, where we shall have a grand time with Pop 5.
Thank you very much. Remind your name again?
Joy Clayton, Falls Clayton.
All right, thank you very much. Yes, Mr. Black. 30 seconds. 30 seconds. I want to welcome IRFM and thank the IRFM in my community of Kensington Point. And I hope someday we'll get water in our pipes. Yeah. Okay. We just want to mention Roehampton District, Roehampton Greatest was also a place that burned up in the 1831 rebellion. And all this Montpellier was like the town up in the time. And Roehampton and Montpellier is both archaeological study done by the University of the West Indies. So this heritage tour and whole thing, we're looking forward to increase the momentum and teach youth in schools, alright? Let's up Kheru. All my friends in England is I Mabrak, alright? Alright, thank you very much. Alright, there was some Mr. Bartley. There was hot spot. Fire the one down there. Fire the one down there. It's all up justice. Fire the one down there. Fire the one down there. Fire the one. Solo justice. Kensington. Palmyra. Turn it up. Hold 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 on. If they say Palmyra is on fire, if they say Kensington is on fire, my God, I hear that all of St. Elizabeth is on fire. Palmyra, Tullow Castle, Palmyra, Tullow Castle, Kensington, Irie, upon them down there. What it does? Irie, what it does? Time sharp now, Wilberforce. All right, thank you very much. One last word. 2
2 seconds. Yeah, the Taliban's of freedom. Here's the because Charlie DJ come, Sam Sharp, them coming. But don't pick you to make him fire them running. Here's the because Charlie DJ and do me say yes, Sam Sharp. You know him was a deacon. Here's the because Charlie DJ champion, the Ram dance, all of me can come to come with the big up. That's all. We're having gone here. I'm the greatest on the historical site right here in Kensington, St. James, Cabo. I want to say thanks to Mr. Clayton and Landell Clayton. Of course, we couldn't do it without Mr. Sidney Bartley, coordinator of the whole Flames of Freedom celebration. Sam Sharp, Noel Chung, Osborne, Johnson, Trevor Ebert, Kheru, everyone.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
And the minister. Of course, Minister Kelly.
All right.
And the JS Fund. So that's it, Cabo.
Thank you very much.
Down here.
I can hear that.
Yeah, man.
I can hear that, Roger. Thank you so much, Roger. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Man. Welcome. You're welcome, man.
All right. Okay. Great work. Great work. Okay. Roger Haspel there, live from Kensington. Hey, this is how we're saying goodbye. This is how we're saying goodbye for today. Thank you so much, Roger Haspel, Sidney Bartley, Minister Derek Kelly, and the team in Kensington. My name is Kabuma at Kheru. It was good keeping company with you as usual. Thanks to you on the social media. Thank you so much. Thank you, Selector Princess. Thanks for all the messages via social media. You can follow me on Twitter at Kabuma at Kheru, K-A-A-B-U, Ma'at, M-A-A-T, Kheru, K-H-E-R-U. Or you can search for the Africa Forum. And we're on Facebook. Thank you for the messages on Facebook. Kabuma at Kheru Williams. And everywhere else. Thanks to you on the 107s for tuning in, for listening in as usual. We are our ancestors and we've got an unfinished work. It's an unfinished revolution. It's an unfinished change process. Let us get to it. Thanks to Jody. Great work, Jody. We'll see you next week, inshallah. God's willing. Take care. Walk good. Tell him other one howdy. Hey, by the way, we're going to be in Brownstown on the 24th, which is Grand Market Day and Night from 2 p.m. until 2 a.m. IRIA FM and the entire outside broadcast team with the shockwave and then some. We're putting it down in Brownstown and we'll be there for most of the day into morning. See you then. We're going to be at the St. Anne's Bay Hospital, at the children's ward. And this is going to be a private thing now as we go to the St. Anne's Bay Hospital to bring some Irish cheer. That's tomorrow inside of the wake-up call. What good? Take care. Tell them other one howdy.
Africa, right? These marches